Chapter 13:10. His swordsmanship could not be considered very brilliant, but his carefree and casual temperament could still be felt clearly even after 20,000 years. Sword Chi swept through the grave palace, causing the dust on the walls to fall off. The mural that revealed the true face of Mount Lu seemed to be influenced. The figure in the mural came to life and started dancing. Instantly, the entire grave palace was filled with sword images. Metallic clangs rang out endlessly. The scenes of distant history and reality merged together, creating a complicated scene. The stars moved in the grave palace as if time and space were reversed. On the ground, the previously calm Chu Chaoyan showed a slightly strange expression when he saw the sky full of sword images in the grave palace. Suddenly, two figures of light appeared on Chu Chaoyan's left and right, one black and one white. They held swords and moved at the same time. The sword technique materialized was no different from the one in the grave palace. In these sword images, Xiao Chan found a familiar feeling. The three sun-like lights in his sea of consciousness flickered endlessly, showing off their sharpness. They were like suns in his sea of consciousness, giving off an intense light. Xiao Chan walked slowly, step by step. As he sensed the sword Dao contained in the sword intent, he continuously perfected his saber Dao. When Xiao Chan reached the end of the mural, the figure formed by the life bestowal spell smiled faintly and nodded. It seemed very satisfied with the mural that it made. Then, it sheathed its sword and soared into the sky. Chu Chaoyan raised his head and looked at the figure soaring into the sky. His expression was complicated as he muttered to himself. Since you are so strong, unparalleled since ancient times, why did you leave behind this vast dynasty and not care about it? Whoosh! The black and white figures merged into Chu Chaoyan's body. He stretched out his finger, and the figure soaring into the sky directly shattered, turning into countless specks of dust and scattering. Inside the grave palace, Xiao Chan did not know about Chu Chaoyan's expression. He was currently carefully comprehending what he gained from the mural. Xiao Chan was practically certain that the first-generation Tianwu Emperor left this mural behind. He had casually created it in one breath, forming this majestic painting. Xiao Chan entered deep thought. Those sun-like motes of light in his sea of consciousness were a kind of energy that could only be comprehended through the saber domain after entering the saber Dao. Let's call it saber energy for now. It was a certain level of the saber Dao. He felt a similar sword energy in the first-generation Tianwu Emperor's sword intent. However, the first-generation Tianwu Emperor's sword energy was much stronger than Xiao Chen's. It would not be an exaggeration to describe it as a drop of water compared to an ocean. From the looks of it, Xiao Chen's choice in the saber domain was correct. As a bladesman, he should focus on the saber and supplement it with his domain. The use of the saber domain for bladesmen was to cultivate this saber energy. With a flash, Xiao Chan reappeared on the ground. He looked at Chu Chaoyan and said, "Many thanks for your help. Otherwise, I would not have been able to understand my saber Dao so clearly." Chu Chaoyan smiled faintly and said, "I didn't mean it. You don't have to thank me. I should be the one thanking you for making me realize how despicable the owner of this tomb is." Hey! Xiao Chan saw hatred in Chu Chaoyan's eyes, hatred for the first-generation Tianwu Emperor. The first-generation Tianwu Emperor left behind a fake tomb and faked his own death, no longer caring about his descendants or the dynasty he founded. No wonder Chu Chaoyan hated him. Where did the first-generation Tianwu Emperor go? Had he left this place of exile? Or perhaps he was not a person of this abandoned land at all. I just wonder where he should be. Why did Xiao Chan think this way? It was because he felt that this first-generation Tianwu Emperor was ridiculously strong, much stronger than the cultivators of the Kunlun realm's ancient era. There was also that strange heavenly flame. Xiao Chan felt that this heavenly flame might be like the heavenly snow divine flame that he obtained, a flame born from the primal chaos. However, the heavenly flame was already nourished to an extremely strong level. As for the heavenly snow divine flame that Xiao Chan obtained, it was extremely weak, like a baby crying piteously for food. Xiao Chen calmed down and said with a grave expression, Chu Chaoyan, what is your purpose in luring me here? Can you tell me now? You told me that the Thunder King is missing and blasted open the tomb. What exactly are you trying to say? Chu Chaoyan smiled and said, given your intelligence, you should be able to figure it out on your own. Think about it. Xiao Chen's face sank. He knew that Chu Chaoyan definitely had an ulterior motive for luring him here. He would not come here to reminisce for no reason. Xiao Chen's thoughts raced. A light flashed in his mind, and 4 words rang out, luring the tiger away from mountains. With a thought, Xiao Chen split his spiritual sense into 2 and spread it out frantically. Soon, the scene of the Xiao clan city and Qingyun Peak appeared in Xiao Chen's mind. It was calm and peaceful, without any ripples. Everything is fine. In that case, it is for the remaining half of the Sky Dome heart. Xiao Chen narrowed his eyes and looked straight at Chu Chaoyan. He said, you want to obtain the Sky Dome heart? Chu Chaoyan smiled and said, you are indeed not stupid. However, it is useless for you to know now. The Sky Dome Palace should have been broken already. Speaking of which, I have to thank you. If not for you demonstrating how to break that Sky Dome Dragon formation, the Sky Dome Palace would not have been easy to break. Whoosh! Xiao Chen could not be bothered to speak nonsense with Chu Chaoyan. His figure flashed and flew forward, preparing to rush to the Sky Dome Palace. It is not that easy to go and help. Chu Chaoyan smiled faintly. His left eye released an intense white light, and his right eye turned a fearsome black. A smile separated black and white. With Chu Chaoyan's body as the boundary, one on the left and one on the right, black and white were distinct. The black light and the white light divided the entire world into 2. It was an extremely strange sight. The black and white lights formed a formless aura that tried to swallow up Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen's heart skipped a beat. This fellow had already comprehended the will of light and the will of darkness to their limits. Xiao Chen's figure flickered, and this aura forced him back. After spreading out his saber domain, the moment Xiao Chen landed, he gently pushed off with his feet. Then, he shot forward like a sharp arrow, charging with an even stronger aura. Chu Chaoyan smiled faintly and spread out his sword domain as well. Then, he took a step forward and charged at Xiao Chen. The 2 did not draw their sabers and swords, fighting speed with speed, only using their fists and palms. However, the saber intent and sword intent in their fists and palms were not weak at all. Although it was clearly just a clash of fists and feet, intense clanging rang out in the sky. The saber domain and the sword domain overlapped, piercing space and turning it into a mess. Xiao Chen did not use the Taiji Dao, only using his saber domain and his fists and feet to fight. The 2 knew that this was just a simple test. After 100 moves, they both pushed back 10 kilometers and faced each other from a distance. Faintly, the 2 of them emitted a sharp glow that soared into the sky, forming a formless saber and a formless sword. Suddenly, Xiao Chen smiled and said, Chu Chaoyan, it looks like your cultivation of the state of primal chaos is not going well. The stronger you cultivate light and darkness, the more they oppose each other, and the harder it is to merge them. A few years ago, when Xiao Chen met Chu Chaoyan, the other party could still merge light and darkness, forming a vague form of primal chaos. However, now that Chu Chaoyan grew stronger, the opposition between light and darkness intensified, making it even harder to merge them. It is enough to stop you, Chu Chaoyan said. He did not confirm or deny Xiao Chen's guess. Xiao Chen retorted indifferently. That might not be the case. Right after Xiao Chen spoke, he drew the Lunar Shadow Saber. Then, he used his flawless saber, Dao, to form an even more ferocious aura. His body merged with the saber. His clothes and hair each gave off a sharpness. Retreat. Before Xiao Chen's strong aura, Chu Chaoyan did not choose to clash head-on. His body gave off a black and white light as he took 5 steps back. When he could no longer retreat, Chu Chaoyan drew his sword. Chong! Chong! When Xiao Chen drew his sword, 2 sword hums rang out. Suddenly, Chu Chaoyan's body split into 2. One was clad in black robes, and the other was clad in white robes. Their appearances were the same, but their auras were different. The most important thing was that they both had a sword domain. Light sword domain and dark sword domain. Just because I did not enter the primal chaos great Tao does not mean that I have become weak. The two figures spoke at the same time, their voices echoing in the surroundings. Then, they suppressed Xiao Chen from the left and right. Invisibly, Xiao Chen's saber technique was suppressed. Taiji Dao, with a thought, the primordial energy in Xiao Chen's body materialized the Taiji force field as he executed the fish dragon art. Xiao Chen alternated between fast and slow. After images flashed and lightning flashed in the sky, reversing the situation. Xiao Chen was no longer in the mood to waste time with Chu Chaoyan. He still had to rush to the Sky Dome Palace. After 100 moves, Xiao Chen directly executed the Taiji explosion. Bang! The ground under Xiao Chen's feet exploded. The power of the world, controlled by the Taiji force field, shattered and shattered. The explosion of the Taiji force field seemed to have obliterated the laws of the Great Tao within 1 kilometer. Chu Chaoyan's black and white figures vomited blood as they flew back. After they landed, they smiled bitterly. Without primordial energy, fighting you is really at a disadvantage. Among the same generation, any outstanding talent that did not advance to Martial Emperor would be using half their strength to fight Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen snorted coldly and said, "Go away. Otherwise, don't blame me for getting serious." After obstructing him until now, Xiao Chen was truly enraged. He still had the peak will of thunder, the 3 layers of saber energy, and the major magic skill, Dermic World. If Chu Chaoyan continued to block him, Xiao Chen would not mind using these trump cards. However, Chu Chaoyan should also have trump cards that he had not used. Defeating the other party would not be a problem. However, whether he could kill Xiao Chen was uncertain. Xiao Chen sheathed his swords and smiled at the same time, saying, "Let's go. I hope you can make it in time." Xiao Chen sheathed his saber. Then, he glanced at Chu Chaoyan before leaving in a flash. "How much of his strength do you think he has exposed?" the white-robed Chu Chaoyan asked. The black-robed Chu Chaoyan replied unhurriedly, "About 40%. It seemed like Chu Chaoyan was talking to himself, but it also seemed like the two of them were conversing. The scene was incredibly strange. 2 beams of light, one black and one white, merged back into Chu Chaoyan's body. Primal chaos filled his eyes as he muttered, "The great chaos of the Kunlun realm has already begun. No matter what, I hope you can clear your great tribulation of wind and fire." By the time Xiao Chen arrived at the Sky Dome Palace, the recently rebuilt Sky Dome Palace was in disarray again. Many cultivators lay on the ground, crying and groaning. However, most of them were fine. Their lives were not in danger. Amid the crowd, Xiao Chen found Old Yin. The other party's complexion was very poor, like he had aged significantly. Chapter 13:11. Xiao Chen's heart sank. He knew that he was probably too late, so he walked over and asked around. Indeed, a group of mysterious people snatched away the remaining half of the Sky Dome heart. They are not demons. No, although they were masked, I can be sure that they are not demons. They do not have the aura of a demon. Old Yin told Xiao Chen about what happened back then. A group of masked people used a method similar to what Xiao Chen did. They made the dragon soul in the sky clash with the Sky Dome dragon on the ground, breaking the Sky Dome dragon formation and snatching away the Sky Dome heart. Old Yin sighed, "This world is really chaotic. I believe that this group of mysterious people will snatch away the other half of the Sky Dome heart from the demons." Xiao Chen was stunned. It looked like Chu Chaoyan's ambition was extraordinarily great. Unknowingly, Chu Chaoyan actually gained such a strong force in the Sky Dome realm. It was like he could occupy the entire Sky Dome realm at any time. Chu Chaoyan was just waiting for an opportunity, waiting for true chaos to descend. Old Yin continued, "Right now, the Bushin Palace is also very chaotic. Blue Dragon King, when you return, you have to be more careful." Xiao Chen asked curiously, "What do you mean?" Old Yin frowned and said, "There are many factions in the Bushin Palace. Everything is in chaos. I requested for reinforcements several times, but they ignored me. From the looks of it, it looks like they want to revolt and re-elect the palace master of the Bushin Palace. They simply cannot care about such a small matter. I did not receive much news while I was in the Sky Dome realm. I really don't know what happened for it to suddenly become so chaotic. Xiao Chen knew very well that the Thunder King had disappeared, his fate unknown. The three holy masters were already dissatisfied with the Thunder King. It would be strange if the situation was not chaotic. However, Xiao Chun could not tell Old Yin all this. That would only make him worry. Xiao Chun consoled. Since the Sky Dome heart is gone, there is no need to rebuild the Sky Dome Palace. Come with me to the Xiao clan. There is a small iron defense magic formation that I laid there. Its offense is not strong, but its defense is much stronger than the Sky Dome Dragon formation. Really? Thank you, Blue Dragon King, Elder Yin said with a smile. Xiao Chun sighed. Chaos was coming, and he couldn't help much. This was all he could do. He really wanted to go to the Kunlun realm to see what was going on. However, the Taiji Dao, the flawless Saber Dao, and the cultivation of Saber energy needed to be sorted out properly. He could not act rashly. 1 year. Give me 1 more year. That will be enough, Xiao Chun said in a deep voice. The fact that the Sky Dome heart had fallen into Chu Chaoyun's hands was already a fact that could not be changed. Xiao Chun did not care too much about what Chu Chaoyun was planning or how much power he had in the Sky Dome realm. He only cared about the safety of his family and friends, as well as the disciples on Blue Cloud Peak. After leaving the Sky Dome Palace, Xiao Chun arrived at the Xiao Clan city. Then, he saw Yu Qinsi and the other two, who were about to leave, in the city lord's residence. Right now, the Kunlun realm was in great chaos. However, great chaos often meant great fortuitous encounters. To the three of them, this might not be a bad thing. Xiao Chun, when do you intend to return to the Kunlun realm? When will the great tribulation of wind and fire arrive? Yu Qinsi asked out of concern. Gong Yangyu and Xianyuan Zhantian were also very concerned about this problem. Everyone knew that of the 5 years that Yu Bingyun had set for Xiao Chun, only 1.5 years remained. As the time drew closer, it was hard for Xiao Chen's good friends to not worry. Xiao Chun smiled faintly, not avoiding this question. There is still about 1 more year. I have gained something in the Kunlun realm and need to properly digest it. As for the great tribulation of wind and fire, it might come at any time. Let nature take its course. When he spoke, his body exuded a sense of tranquility, allowing others to feel his tranquility. Yu Qinsi and the other two felt slightly relieved. They knew that Xiao Chen's mentality was much better than theirs. This time, when you go to the Kunlun realm, you should have a great fortuitous encounter. Grasp it well, and it won't be hard to gain something. Remember, your lives are the most important. Xianyuan Zhantian and the others felt suspicious. Xiao Chun seemed to know something, but he did not say it clearly. They had not left the Sky Dome realm. So how did Xiao Chun know the situation of the Kunlun realm like the back of his hand? Xiao Chun, can you explain? Xiao Chun shook his head and said, There is no need to say too much. You will understand when you get there. In that case, we will take our leave first, right? I will leave the 3 juniors of my Xiao clan to you as well. After sending off the 3 with his eyes, Xiao Chun gave his blessings in his heart. He only hoped that his 3 friends would be able to obtain some peace in this chaotic world. Right now, Xiao Chun was like duckweed. If he was not careful, he could get scattered by the wind and waves. There was not much he could do. If he could not clear his great tribulation of wind and fire, he would not be able to protect himself in this chaotic world. Shaking his head, Xiao Chun met with his father. Then he started to think about how to strengthen the small iron defense magic formation around the city lord's residence. Spring passed, and autumn arrived. In this Sky Dome realm, Xiao Chun traveled back and forth between the Xiao clan and Qingyan Peak. Occasionally, he would go out and enjoy the scenery. There was not much time left for Xiao Chun. However, he did not just enter closed-door cultivation. Instead, he moved about frequently. Amidst the mountains and rivers, he savored the Taiji Dao and tempered his mental state. He let nature take its course and did not dwell on the details. Seven Horn Mountain, White Water City, the deep sea. He walked the paths that he had taken in the past. Finally, he arrived at the most mysterious place of the Sky Dome realm, the ancient desolate tower. Back then, Shao Chun had fought against the outstanding talents of the various nations in the ancient desolate tower. Only then did he gain some fame as the White Robe Bladesman. Now that he was in Desolate City again, the bewildering formation that hid the ancient desolate tower naturally did not hinder Shao Chun. He immediately saw that mysterious ancient desolate tower. The ancient desolate tower had existed since the time of the Tianwu dynasty. After understanding the strength of the first-generation Tianwu emperor, Shao Chun even felt that the first-generation Tianwu emperor might have personally built this ancient desolate tower for the sake of tempering the royal clan's disciples. Ao Jiao, speaking of which, why did you make me stop at the 8th floor back then and not go to the 9th floor? You should be able to tell me this secret now, right? Shao Chun asked casually as he recalled a matter from the past. That year, Shao Chun revealed his brilliance among the outstanding talents of the various nations. He overcame all the difficulties and killed his way to the 8th floor. Later, due to Ao Jiao's words, Shao Chun gave up on the idea of entering the 9th floor. That was a small regret. Originally, Shao Chun had expected that Ao Jiao would not make things difficult for him now. Who knew? After Shao Chun spoke for a long time, he did not hear a reply from Ao Jiao. He could not help feeling curious. Now, Shao Chun's strength was overwhelming, comparable to Emperor Wu's. Even Chu Chaoyan had to give way to Shao Chun, not daring to challenge him. To think that Ao Jiao was still worried. What exactly was in the ancient desolate tower's 9th floor for Ao Jiao to be so worried? Just as Shao Chun was about to continue asking, Ao Jiao flew out of the immortal spirit ring. She said, "There's a mirror in there called the Three-Life Mirror. It can show the future and the past. Those who enter the 9th floor will have another chance to choose whether to look at the past or the future." An interested expression appeared in Shao Chun's eyes. And then, Sang Mu chose to look at the future. In the end, he saw his body shattering and his Tao falling. After that, it really came true. No matter how talented he was in the Kunlun realm, he could not change it. Shao Chun's expression froze. When he heard Ao Jiao's sullen tone, he said, "Sorry, I should not have asked." Shao Chun finally understood why Ao Jiao did not want him to go to the 9th floor. She was afraid that he would end up like the Thunder King Sang Mu, defeated by fate. Ao Jiao smiled and said, "It's fine. There's no need to hide these things from you. The choice is up to you." Shao Chun thought to himself, "It would have been fine if I did not know about it in the past. Now that I know about the Three-Life Mirror on the 9th floor, I have to make a trip there." With Shao Chun's current strength, the various restrictions of the ancient desolate tower were naturally ineffective. If he wanted to enter, he just had to forcibly tear space. However, how should he choose? Look at the past or the future? The Thunder King felt that there was nothing to see in the past, so he chose the future. In the end, he ended up dying without a complete corpse. In the end, it really came true. When Shao Chun thought about it, it did feel somewhat horrifying. Before fate, a single person's effort was insignificant. No matter how hard he tried, he could not change it. Little Ao Jiao, wait here for a while. I'll go in and take a look. Without waiting for Ao Jiao to reply, Shao Chun tore space and broke the various restrictions in space. Then, he silently arrived at the 9th floor of the ancient desolate tower. Indeed, it was as Ao Jiao said. The empty 9th floor only had a mirror in the center. Aside from that, there was nothing else. The mirror was close to 2 meters tall. Its surface was as smooth as water. When Shao Chun entered, he kicked up a strong wind, causing the mirror to ripple. "Strange, you're already as strong as a half-step Emperor Wu. That's not right. You are even stronger than a regular Emperor Wu. How are you able to enter the ancient desolate tower?" A cute girl appeared in the Three-Life Mirror. She stared at Shao Chun and asked, finding it strange. Shao Chun smiled and said, "You must be the item spirit of the Three-Life Mirror, right? Although I did not follow the rules and barged in, I managed to get here step by step. It's just that I gave up this opportunity back then. It's not too late to do it now, right?" The pretty girl in the mirror giggled and said, "So that's how it is. You do have the aura of someone who cleared the earlier stages. In that case, it is not too late. If not for the mark of the earlier stages, even if you managed to barge in, little 3 would not be able to reveal anything about you. Xiaochen walked forward and looked at the lively item spirit. He asked, "Do you remember the person who came here the last time?" The pretty girl's eyes sparkled. She smiled in a somewhat infatuated manner and said, "Of course I remember. He was a very handsome fellow, even more handsome than you. However, he did not have the air you have. If I had to choose, I would be in a difficult position. I do not know who to choose. Should I choose the handsome and sunny type or the elegant and quiet type? How difficult, how difficult. How should I choose?" In the mirror, the pretty girl completely forgot about Xiaochen's existence. She tilted her head and rubbed her chin, appearing to be in a difficult position. Cold sweat appeared on Xiaochen's forehead. This item spirit had been lonely for a long time. It had not spoken for thousands of years, but when it did, it would say a lot. Furthermore, it was infatuated. "He is dead. Is he really dead?" The pretty girl was somewhat stunned at first. Then, she smiled excitedly and said, "Little 3 is really incredible. It got it right again." Chapter 13:12. Xiaochen felt helpless. There was really no way to hate this kind of girl. Furthermore, she was an item spirit. She spoke without thinking, but her heart was rather pure. "Hee, I knew you wouldn't blame little 3. Then, tell me, do you choose to look at the past or the future?" Looking at the past is giving you a chance to see the various things of your previous life. Looking at the future is letting you see the joys and sorrows of this life. The little beauty smiled as she introduced. She explained in detail, revealing her chatterbox nature. "You choose the past or the future?" Little 3 smiled mischievously. "You only have one chance." Xiaochen opened his mouth, but he still found it hard to choose. Should he look at the past or the future? What's wrong? You can't decide? Do you need little 3 to help you decide? The little beauty asked, giggling. Xiaochen thought for a while before saying, "I suddenly thought of something. Be it the past or the future, it cannot be changed. In that case, what is the point of looking at it or not? The past has already happened. Of course, it cannot be changed. However, although the future did not happen, it cannot be changed. The so-called fate was already decided the moment you spoke." Xiaochen smiled and said, "Keep it simple. Just nod and say that I'm right. There's no need for a long explanation." The little beauty smiled bashfully and said, "How is that possible? It's just that little 3 has not met a living person for too long and could not help but speak insincerely." "Stop." Xiaochen stretched out his hand to stop the other party. This little beauty's words gave him a headache. He finally witnessed the terror of a chatterbox. Little 3 covered her mouth and smiled. "All right, let's stop talking. If you can't decide, let the heavens decide." Xiaochen asked curiously, "What do you mean?" "Toss out a prop, and you make the decision in whatever direction it is thrown." When Xiaochen heard that, he hesitated. "Let the heavens decide?" Little 3 did not say anything, waiting for Xiaochen to answer. After muttering to himself for a while, Xiaochen sighed softly. Since when did his courage fall to such a level? To think that the past and the future had to be decided by the heavens. Indeed, time had worn down his edge. If he had come up here back then, he would have chosen to look at the future without any hesitation. Now that he had restrained his sharpness and stood in a high position, he became fearful instead. "How is it? Do you need it?" Xiaochen shook his head. "No, I've made up my mind. I don't believe in fate. I only believe in myself. Show me my past. I want to see my past life. No matter what happened in the future, it was the result of his own decisions. It had nothing to do with fate. He wanted to see the past. He was also curious about how he had transmigrated. He occupied the body named Xiaochen, devoured his soul, inherited the will of the original Xiaochen, and lived in this world. Was the so-called previous life the previous life of that Earth Xiaochen, or the original Xiaochen of the Sky Dome realm? Little 3 pinched his chin and said, "Past lives. Very few people look at their past lives. They don't understand what's there to look at. But, Big Brother White Clothes, since you've made your choice, Little 3 won't refuse." Put your hand in. Xiao Chan followed Little Three's instructions and directly extended his hand into the mirror. Hee, what a white hand. How pretty. It's very elegant and full of spiritual energy. Little Three really likes it. So, you're called Xiao Chen. However, others call you the White Robe Bladesman. Little Three is not wrong. The pretty little girl smiled as she held Xiao Chen's hand and opened her large, cute eyes wide. Xiao Chen said helplessly, "Can we begin now?" "Yes, let's begin. I'll bring Big Brother White clothes to see your past life. No matter what happens, don't let go of my hand. I'm going to pull you into this three-life mirror." Xiao, the pretty little girl, pulled hard, and Xiao Chen felt like his soul was being pulled out. The world spun around him, and he felt dizzy. Xiao Chen turned his head and saw that his body still maintained the same posture as before, like a statue, not moving at all. Don't look back. What you need to do now is look forward. Xiao Chen turned his head and looked to the front. A star turned into a flame and fell from the sky. There was no way to avoid it. Surging heat waves and overwhelming ferocious might surged over. Xiao Chen paled in fright and tried to move away on the spot. However, he discovered that Little Three was holding his hand tightly, preventing him from escaping. Before he could cry out, he closed his eyes, and the fireball passed through him and landed on the ground. The fireball smashed open a huge crater. Then, it took human form. Its life essence turned into multicolored light and scattered like fireworks. Little Three giggled endlessly. Only then did Xiao Chen react. Everything in front of him was the past. It was impossible for it to injure him. Little Three was just scaring him on purpose. I'll settle the score with her later. Xiao Chen did not have time to care about Little Three's little tricks. He focused on the scene before him. The scene before him was like the end of the world. There was an unimaginably vast and flourishing palace in the sky. The palace fell apart, and flames blazed. All sorts of tender spirit herbs were burned away. The glorious buildings turned into rubble. However, these were not the scariest things. The scariest were the stars in the sky. Only now did Xiao Chen see clearly that these stars were not real stars, but people. However, these people were too strong, unimaginably strong. Before they died, they gave off a star-like light. Stars fell from the sky. Space shattered, laws collapsed, and order ceased to exist. The sky fell and the earth cracked. Xiao Chen's mind boomed. This was the scene of the immortal epic's destruction. How could he have seen such a scene in his previous life? How incredible. Elder Brother White Robes was actually an immortal in his previous life. Little Three said with a smile as she held Xiao Chen's hand and walked through the space where the immortals fell. Xiao Chen found it strange. He asked, "You don't seem surprised. Have you seen immortals before?" Little Three puffed out her chest and said, "They're just immortals." Little Three's creator could be considered a major character in the heavenly court. That was a major character who jumped out of the cycle of reincarnation, undying and able to twist time and space. In the past, there were some people who were immortals in their previous lives. However, that is not a big deal. Just looking at the things of my previous life is enough. The past is just a passing cloud. It will not be of much help to this life. Xiao Chen did not say anything. He continued to watch. He wanted to know if this was Earth's previous life or the Sky Dome Realm's Xiao Chen's previous life. "Hey, I found you." Little Three's eyes lit up as she led Xiao Chen over. Space and time twisted, and the scene suddenly changed. Xiao Chen arrived in a world of black and white. 18 layers of purgatory, gates of life and death, Yellow Springs Road. Xiao Chen immediately remembered. What is this place? It looks so familiar. Isn't this the Yellow Springs Road, the 18 layers of purgatory that I went to in the past? In the Yellow Springs Road, the last group of immortals of the immortal epic gathered together with fatigued expressions and weak auras. Among the immortals, there was a person dressed in white, looking spotless. He stood at the side, listening to the discussion of the others without saying a word. Xiao Chen looked at this person. He had a vague feeling that made his heart skip a beat. Was this how I looked in my previous life? Damn it. The immortal epic collapsed, and this Kitagarbha Bodhisattva actually took advantage of the situation, occupying the entire purgatory. This bald monk is really disgusting. Now that the purgatory is in chaos, he actually took advantage of the situation to refine the sea of bitterness and absorb the power of faith. He blocked the 6 paths of reincarnation, not letting us leave. The group of immortals felt very angry. However, their strength had dropped significantly. They could not do anything to the tyrannical Kitagarbha Bodhisattva. The laws changed, and the immortal epoch came to an end. This group of immortals suffered a destructive blow. Although the Buddhist cultivators were affected as well, they quickly adapted to the situation. The damage to Meru Mountain was much smaller. I'll go and have a chat with him. A murderous intent flashed in the eyes of the white-clad immortal, who had been silent all this while. Then he walked forward. "Sky Dome, immortal lord, don't be rash," the other immortals immediately exclaimed. Although the Sky Dome immortal lord said to go and have a chat, everyone knew that the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva would not agree. There would definitely be a huge battle. Now that the immortal epoch was slowly passing, they could feel their strength weakening. They simply could not fight with this Kitagarbha Bodhisattva. A bolt of lightning flashed in Xiao Chen's mind, stunning him. He had clearly heard and seen that those people were calling out the Sky Dome Immortal Lord, the leader of the 3,000 Immortal Lords. Was that the Sky Dome Immortal Lord in my previous life? Xiao Chun muttered in some disbelief, feeling like he was dreaming. Right now, Xiao Chun had not confirmed whether the Sky Dome Immortal Lord was his previous life or the original Xiao Chen's previous life. I have to go and take a look. Feeling that he was getting closer to the answer, Xiao Chun quickly chased after the Sky Dome Immortal Lord with Little 3. He wanted to see how the Sky Dome Immortal Lord negotiated with the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva. In the sea of bitterness, the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva's colossal body gave off layers of Buddhist light. There were 3,000 arhats around him, chanting Buddhist chants and holding Buddhist prayer beads in their hands, continuously purifying the vast number of aggrieved spirits. Hell was shattered, and countless wandering spirits turned into light and entered the Buddhist light behind the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva. It was like there was a nation there. Xiao Chun felt startled. Back then, when he saw the headless body of the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva, the might and pressure from it was already horrifying enough. However, compared now, it was completely different. The sea of bitterness below the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva was vast and boundless. It was several times larger than the sea of bitterness 10,000 years later. When the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva saw the Sky Dome Immortal Lord arrive, he did not even open his eyes. He said indifferently, "Sky Dome Immortal Lord, I already told you immortals to leave quickly. This Bodhisattva has already made a great vow. I swear not to become a Buddha until hell is empty." The Kitagarbha Bodhisattva's gentle words were supported by Buddhist might, lingering in the surroundings for a long time. The words, "I swear not to become a Buddha until hell is empty," made the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva's Buddhist light even brighter. With one look, one could put down the butcher's knife and kneel before Buddha. Compared to the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva's colossal body, the white-clad Sky Dome Immortal Lord looked pitifully insignificant as he walked on the sea of bitterness. However, the Sky Dome Immortal Lord's outstanding and pure aura was very dazzling when compared to the thousands of aggrieved spirits and wild spirits around him. With one glance, one could discover his extraordinariness. The Sky Dome Immortal Lord looked at the aggrieved spirits in the sea of bitterness around him. Then he looked at the 3,000 arhats beside the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva and the vast Buddhist nation behind him. In the midst of great chaos, there would always be ambitious people stirring up trouble. Clearly, this Kitagarbha Bodhisattva before him was one such person. He swore not to become a Buddha until hell was empty. However, once he became a Buddha, he would become the new epic master. Chapter 13:13. Without saying a word, he struck out with his palm. Boom! When the Sky Dome Immortal Lord threw a palm strike, his body swelled with the wind. When the palm wind landed, his body was already comparable to the Chittagarbha Bodhisattva's. Immortal might spread out from his body, sweeping away all the Buddhist light in this sea of bitterness. Amidst the loud explosion, the Buddhist kingdom behind Chittagarbha Bodhisattva shattered, scattering light everywhere. The layers of Buddhist light on his body dimmed several times in an instant. In his rage, the Chittagarbha Bodhisattva burned with rage. Buddhist light covered his entire body. Boom! What answered the Sky Dome Immortal Lord was the Sky Dome Immortal Lord's second palm strike. When this palm strike landed, the 3,000 arhats all died. The Chittagarbha Bodhisattva felt somewhat afraid. He saw a kind of coldness in the Sky Dome Immortal Lord. It was a coldness that made one forget about life and death. Nothing mattered, including one's own life. Right now, he was extremely regretful. This kind of person could not be entangled at all. Even if he killed him, he would still be the one to suffer a loss. One of these two palm strikes destroyed his Buddhist kingdom, and the other destroyed his 3,000 arhats. Who knew how long it would take for him to recover? It was because of these two palm strikes that the Qing Emperor had the opportunity to behead him. The so-called karma had already been planned long ago. Without these two palm strikes, none of the subsequent events would have happened. "Stop. I'll let you go," Chittagarbha said. The Sky Dome Immortal Lord withdrew his hand, and his figure shrank as he vomited 3 mouthfuls of blood. When the blood landed in the sea of bitterness, it immediately spread out and burned the millions of aggrieved spirits to death. Xiao Chun thought to himself that his previous life was so domineering. With just 2 palm strikes, Xiao Chun forced the Chittagarbha Bodhisattva to obediently let him pass without saying a word. Similarly, the Sky Dome Immortal Lord did not say anything as he quickly returned. He came to a group of immortals and said calmly, "It's done." The last of the immortals were overjoyed, and a smile appeared on their tired faces. "All right, the 6 paths of reincarnation should still be intact. We can leave through the heavenly Tao. There's always a way out. There's always a chance. We've finally escaped this calamity. When the new era stabilizes, we can come back and rebuild the celestial world, restoring our glory." That's right. As long as the immortals don't die, the world will still be ours. Seeing the group of excited immortals, the Sky Dome Immortal Lord remained silent, not saying anything. But when the group of immortals arrived before the 6 paths of reincarnation, they were all dumbfounded. Without exception, the 6 paths of reincarnation had all shattered. It's over. Everything is over. The heavens are going to exterminate the immortal. Their fate energy has reached its end. The Sky Dome Immortal Lord stretched out a finger and executed a supreme magic skill. The human path in the 6 paths of reincarnation started to slowly heal. When the Sky Dome Immortal Lord finished executing the magic skill, the human path of reincarnation completely recovered. Sky Dome Immortal Lord, how can you still have such strong magic energy? The reconstruction of the human Tao cycle is useless to us. Sky Dome Immortal Lord, go and rebuild the heavenly Tao cycle. The Sky Dome Immortal Lord shook his head and said, "If you want to leave, leave now. I have not reconstructed the cycle of reincarnation. It is only temporarily restored. I do not know when it will shatter. However, the path of reincarnation is connected to space and time. There definitely won't be any immortal chi there. If we go, we'll just be waiting for death. That's right. Only the heavenly Tao cycle of reincarnation can allow us to cultivate and restore our glory." Whoosh! The Sky Dome Immortal Lord did not say anything more. His figure flashed as he went through the cycle of reincarnation. The other immortals showed sorrowful and helpless expressions. They sighed repeatedly and shook their heads as they followed in. The scene changed. The Sky Dome Immortal Lord and the last group of immortals arrived in a savage world. Not only did this world not have immortal chi, but it was also filled with danger. The immortals used their remnant magic energy to defeat the natives of this savage world. Then they started to rebuild this world. Time passed. 1,000 years, 10,000 years, 100 million years, the immortals died one after another. With each death, the Sky Dome Immortal Lord would bury them, leaving behind a nameless gravestone. The Sky Dome Immortal Lord ran all over the place, refining all sorts of medicinal pills, doing his best to extend the lifespans of the other immortals. However, there was nothing that could be done. There was no immortal chi on Earth. Like they said, these immortals could only silently wait for death. Shao Chun could feel the sorrow in the Sky Dome Immortal Lord's heart. That heart of his had actually died long ago. Time passed slowly. The original savage world had already changed. Tall buildings, planes, and trains had appeared long ago. When Shao Chun saw this, he understood everything. The Sky Dome Immortal Lord was Shao Chun's previous incarnation. That savage world was the Earth that he once lived on. Little San was astonished again and again. Her chatterbox nature made her chatter nonstop. Every time she saw something from Earth, she would mutter to herself for a long time. However, Shao Chun did not hear a single word. Indeed, his arrival in this world was not a coincidence. There had never been any coincidences in this world. Everything was predestined. Clearly, the final luck of the immortal epic landed on the Sky Dome Immortal Lord. However, this was not a good thing. Even the Sky Dome Immortal Lord could not avoid death. Before he died, he had to endure boundless loneliness. He had to watch his friends die one by one and personally build gravestones for them. The Sky Dome Immortal Lord could only watch as an epic ended in his own hands, unable to reverse the situation. No one could understand such grief. In the end, all the immortals died, leaving only the Sky Dome Immortal Lord alone in this world. The Sky Dome Immortal Lord's aura grew increasingly weaker. Occasionally, he made some calculations and looked at the starry heavens, like he was waiting for something in the final moments of his life. Shao Chun calmed himself. He had figured out several things. He knew that the answer he had been seeking would appear soon. A saber light tore through the starry heavens. Then, an azure figure flashed and headed for Earth. This figure was in a sorry state. His clothes were tattered, and he looked incredibly weak, like he was severely injured. Shao Chun's eyes lit up as he held his breath and focused. It's here. Everything, all the answers, will be revealed soon. However, just as that azure figure raised his head and Shao Chun saw his appearance, a gaze looked toward Shao Chun and Little Three. A gaze looked at Shao Chun and Little Three. It was the Sky Dome Immortal Lord. It was like the Sky Dome Immortal Lord discovered two people sneaking around in the past. This made Shao Chun's and Little Three's hearts tighten at the same time. Bang! Before the two could react, they saw the Sky Dome Immortal Lord send out a palm strike. It was like the two suffered a heavy blow and went flying back. This startled Shao Chun awake. When he recovered his wits, he discovered that he was already on the 9th floor of the ancient desolate tower. Everything in the past, all the various scenes, felt like a dream. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. Little Three is in so much pain. In the three-life mirror, the pretty item spirit teared up in pain as she rolled on the ground, acting like a spoiled child. Get up. Get up. Quickly tell me what's going on. Shao Chun exclaimed excitedly as he looked at the pretty little girl in the mirror. This was simply too strange. When the Sky Dome Immortal Lord attacked in the three-life mirror, he could still attack them. The palm strike from Shao Chun's previous life forced his current self out. Furthermore, this happened at the most crucial moment, when Shao Chun was about to see the Azure Bladesman. He could not see anything. Could it be that the Sky Dome Immortal Lord is not dead yet? Little Three stood up and stretched her neck and arms. Then, she said doubtfully, Little Three does not know what's going on either. Elder Brother White Robes, don't worry. Let Little Three help you think about what exactly is going on. The pretty little girl rubbed her chin and frowned. Then, she paced back and forth in the mirror, muttering to herself. The past is already in the past. First of all, I can be sure that this person is already dead. In that case, that palm strike earlier is easy to explain. Some strong immortals are good at divination. It is not impossible for them to predict certain things in the future. Hee hee, Little Three is really smart. That must be the case. Little 3 said excitedly to Xiaochen, "Elder brother White Robes, it is like this. This sky dome, Immortal Lord already predicted that someone would peek at this scene in the future. Hence, he made a backup plan at that time, erasing this part of the past so that no one could see it." Xiaochen asked, feeling depressed. "How can it be like this? Isn't your 3-life mirror supposed to be able to see the various things of the past?" Little 3 narrowed her eyes and smiled embarrassedly. "That is true. Actually, Little 3 was created by an immortal. Several immortals had means to avoid being peeked at. The magic skills and strength of the immortals from the immortal epoch are not something you can imagine now. Just think about it. Since the 3-life mirror can see the past and the future, naturally, the immortals would have means to counter it. After all, if someone saw their future and past, it would be equivalent to knowing all their karma. To immortals, that would be very dangerous." Xiao Chan said in understanding. That is to say, the Sky Dome Immortal Lord could not be sure who the person peeking at the past was. However, out of caution, he did not allow anyone to see it. Yes, 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 that's it. Elder brother White Robes, you are really smart. So don't be unhappy. Little 3 said with a smile after she figured it out. Xiao Chun thought to himself, if he did not guess wrong, that azure-clad bladesman was definitely the Qing Emperor. That azure-clad bladesman gave off saber intent. Back then, the Qing Emperor happened to kill the Kitagarbha Bodhisattva, leaving behind a saber light in the Yellow Springs land. It was very likely that the Qing Emperor had gone through the cycle of reincarnation and arrived on Earth in a space-time tunnel. Through this scene of Xiao Chen's previous life, he could connect all the clues together. 10,000 years ago, the Qing Emperor fought with the final Tianwu Emperor. Then, he fought with the 18 demon monarchs. After he returned to the Sky Dome realm, the powerhouses of the various races surrounded and attacked him. The Qing Emperor was already besieged on all sides and had nowhere to go. Left with no choice, he came to the Yellow Springs Road. After traveling through the space-time tunnel, he arrived on Earth and saw the dying Sky Dome Immortal Lord. In that case, the Sky Dome Immortal Lord's purchase of the Compendium of Cultivation and the so-called Immortal Pill might not have been as simple as a coincidence. As the Sky Dome Immortal Lord's reincarnation, it was logical for him to obtain the luck of the Sky Dome realm. As for the Sky Dome Immortal Lord, he possessed the final luck of the Immortal Epic. His rise in the Kunlun realm could also be explained. Karma. Without the karma of the previous life, there would not be the current karma. What a great scheme. Just thinking about it made Xiao Chun tremble in fear. However, was it the Qing Emperor who laid this scheme, or the Sky Dome Immortal Lord himself? 10,000 years ago, the Qing Emperor was so strong, who led the entire Kunlun realm to attack him. All this was still a mystery. Xiao Chun narrowed his eyes and said, I have to become a martial emperor. Only by going to the Blue Dragon Palace can I know everything that happened back then. Chapter 13:14. Hee. Elder brother White Robes, do you want to see the future? See if you can become a martial emperor. Little 3 suddenly asked in anticipation. Curious, Xiao Qin asked, didn't you say that the past and the future can only be seen once? Little 3 smiled and said, Indeed. However, didn't Elder Brother White Robes not finish seeing the past? Naturally, Little 3 has to make it up to you. Xiao Chan smiled faintly and said, Originally, I had some reservations about you. I did not expect you to have such thoughts. Little 3 is very kind-hearted. How about it? Do you want it? Xiao Chen shook his head and said decisively, Thank you. However, I do not want to see what the future is like. I do not even need to look to know my future. I will either live a grand life or die a grand death. No matter what the result is, I will not regret it. That was right. After seeing through the past, Xiao Chen's heart became clearer and he understood himself better. He was born extraordinary. Whether he was willing or not, the Blue Dragon King Xiao Chun would live a grand life. He would either be eternal like the sun or like a meteor disappearing in a flash. However, so what if he was a meteor? There were only 4 words in life. No regrets. When little 3 heard Xiao Qin's words, her expression changed. Elder brother White Robes, can you help me? Just take a look. What do you mean? Since little 3 was created, it has always been in this ancient desolate tower. 1,000 years, 10,000 years, 100,000 years, 1,000,000 years, it has always been here. In the past, when Master was still around, he said that if one day I met a person whose past I could not see through and whose future I could not see through, then little 3 could leave. The liveliness on the pretty item spirit's face vanished. Her eyes turned slightly moist as she looked at Xiao Chun in anticipation. Many years have passed, and little 3 has been waiting. However, there has never been a person whose past I could not see through. There has never been a person whose future I could not see through. Elder brother White Robes, please help me. Let's see your future, all right? Xiao Chun could not see through the past. As long as he could not see through the future, then he was right. Xiao Chun looked around. There might not even be a single person in the 9th floor of the ancient desolate tower every few thousand years. The person who created the 3-life mirror was very cruel, locking up a little girl here for thousands or tens of thousands of years, not allowing her to go. You want to leave? Xiao Chun asked calmly. A trace of loneliness and solitude appeared on little 3's face. I've seen so many people's past lives and pasts, but little 3 doesn't have a past life or a future. Xiao Chun felt sorrowful. He stretched out his hand and placed it in the 3-life mirror. Then he looked at the beautiful artifact spirit and said, "Grab my hand. I will bring you away." Little 3 smiled happily and said, "All right, I'll bring Brother White Robes to see the future. There's no need. I'll just take you away." Just as the beautiful artifact spirit was about to drag Xiao Chun in, Xiao Chun suddenly turned around and grabbed little 3's hand, forcefully pulling. Under little 3's astonished gaze, he forcibly pulled her out. Hua! Little 3's body passed through the water curtain-like mirror and walked out incredulously. As she looked around, her adorable face filled with shock. After a while, little 3 felt both startled and happy. Elder brother White Robes, why? Xiao Chun smiled calmly and said, "Everyone has to live for themselves. Why is it that you have to be trapped here for countless years with just one sentence from that person? Why is it that I have to see my future just because of one sentence from that person? I don't want to see it." The beautiful artifact spirit was stunned by Xiao Chen's words. She felt somewhat conflicted and vexed. However, suddenly, little 3 laughed happily. "Ha ha, that's right. It can't be wrong. Elder brother White Robes is you. The past that I can't see through, the future that I can't see through. If you don't even let me see, how can I see through the future? The past that I can't see through, the future that I can't see through." The white-robed Xiao Chun was the person destined to bring her away from this place. This stunned Xiao Chun. How could it be like this? By doing the exact opposite, he fulfilled the requirements of the 3-life mirror's original owner. Little 3 stretched out her hand and waved, causing the 3-life mirror to shrink into an ordinary-sized mirror. Then, she held in her hand and said, "Come, let's leave this place." Xiao Chun prepared to use the same trick again, shattering space and breaking the many restrictions to leave this place. There's no need to go through so much trouble. I'll bring you out directly. Holding Xiao Chen's hand, little 3's figure flashed, and she easily brought him away from this place. Xiao Chun felt shocked in his heart. This instant movement technique was truly incredible. It was much more brilliant than when he tore space. Space did not break at all, and it flickered. This gave Xiao Chun the feeling of a transportation formation. Perhaps this was the true state of space. It was much stronger than the barbaric method of tearing space. However, this was not too strange either. The 3-life mirror could see the past and predict the future. Clearly, its creator had deep attainments in the space-time Tao. If he was able to grasp even the time Tao so clearly, there was no doubt that he would be able to grasp the space Tao. Little 3 explained, This is the minor universe movement magic ability. It requires extremely high attainments in the state of space before one can practice it. It looks very incredible. However, practically all the immortals back then knew it. The difficult part is the minor universe movement. Xiao Qin nodded, indicating that he somewhat understood. Ao Jiao had been waiting for a long time and felt incredibly anxious. When she saw little 3 beside Xiao Chun, she exclaimed in shock, "Xiao Chun, why did you bring this nagger out?" Little 3's eyes lit up. She smiled and said, "Little Ao Jiao. Hee hee, it's actually you. It has been a long, long time. Elder sister Little 3 misses you very much." Ao Jiao showed a stern expression, ignoring Little 3. Then, she looked at Xiao Chun and asked, "Have you seen the future? What is it like?" Xiao Chun smiled and said, "Don't worry. I chose the past and did not look at the future." Upon hearing this, Ao Jiao heaved a clear sigh of relief. Then, Xiao Chun explained the matter of Little 3 in detail. When Xiao Chun heard that Little 3 would be following them temporarily, he smiled and said, Little 3, you really are Little 3. Ha! Little Ao Jiao, you are actually jealous. It looks like Little 3 is rather charming." Little 3 covered her mouth as she laughed, feeling very cocky. When Xiao Chun saw the two arguing with each other, he smiled bitterly and could not be bothered with them. He walked straight away, preparing to return to Qinyan Peak. He had already spent enough time in the Sky Dome realm. In another month, he would have only half a year left of his 5-year deadline. At that time, his peaceful days would come to an end, and he would have to go to the Kunlun realm. When Ao Jiao and Little 3 saw Xiao Chun leave, they quickly followed. When they saw Ao Jiao enter the immortal spirit ring, Little 3 turned into a beam of light and entered as well. For the past year, Xiao Chun had spent most of his time sightseeing, retracing the steps he had taken. The trip to the ancient desolate tower had put an end to this part of his journey, giving him one last thought. The so-called harvest could only be described with one word: peace. The 2.5 years in the Sky Dome realm were a rare period of leisure for Xiao Chun. After another month, he would go to the Kunlun realm. To Xiao Chun, peace was an extremely extravagant term. However, Xiao Chun had long understood that he had an extraordinary background. He could not truly remain peaceful. This peace was just to welcome an even greater storm, the great tribulation of wind and fire. In the great tribulation of wind and fire, one would either live with a bang or die with a bang. In the back mountain of Qinyan Peak, Xiao Chun practiced all sorts of martial techniques, digesting what he had gained in the past year. Within the Taiji force field, Xiao Chun's body alternated between fast and slow movements as he moved about. Sometimes he was like a blue dragon going out to sea, moving the clouds in all directions. Sometimes he was like an immortal fish swinging its tail, nimble and ever-changing. Suddenly, Xiao Chun drew his saber, and his saber domain spread out. Within 1 kilometer, the saber domain and the Taiji force field overlapped, forming the strange and unfathomable Taiji saber domain. The saber intent turned into a dragon and split into 2, one yin and one yang. One bright and one dark, one left and one right. They formed a simple Taiji diagram of the great Tao on the ground. As Xiao Chun stood in the middle, his saber light became unfathomable. Yang energy was ferocious and tyrannical, howling with rage. Yin energy used softness to overcome hardness, formless and invisible. Executing the fish dragon step, Xiao Chun's body appeared and disappeared in the Taiji saber domain. At one moment, he was boundlessly ferocious with a flourishing aura. At another, he was as still as water, formless and invisible. Yin and Yang merged. Taiji saber domain merge. With a thought, the 2 dragons that formed the Taiji saber domain intertwined like snakes and merged into Xiao Chun's body. Immediately, the saber released a simple and unadorned light. Xiao Chun's eyes were as clear as water. As he grasped his saber, he thrust it forward. Xiao Chun's body slid forward. Everywhere the tip of the saber passed, space silently split in half. There was only one point at the tip of the saber. However, this one-point attack opened a door to another world. Taiji's saber domain explode. Xiao Chun sheathed his saber. The peaceful and tranquil aura within 1 kilometer suddenly turned into a great flood and ferocious beast, completely unpredictable. This Taiji explosion was different from the previous few times. This time, everyone heard only one sound from the Taiji explosion, the ferocious roar of the saber. This was the eruption of the saber, the rage of the saber, the ferocity of the saber. The sound of the saber was like the wind in space, buzzing loudly. The entire world trembled. When Xiao Chun looked at the results of his 1 year of cultivation, he revealed a satisfied expression. Even though his cultivation had not increased, his accumulations had increased once more. In this peaceful and tranquil state of mind, Xiao Chen's cultivation of the Taiji Dao advanced to the next level. One did not have to torture oneself half to death in order to increase one's strength. The improvement of one's mental state often brought unexpected surprises. With my current strength, I should not have to fear a third Heaven Emperor Wu, Xiao Chan said calmly. Even if it is a third Heaven Emperor Wu, the peak, I am confident of defeating my opponent. The third heaven was a hurdle. Within the third heaven, there were only minor Heavenly Emperor Wu. Many of the old seniors did not dare to undergo their lightning tribulations and would remain in the third heaven for 1,000 years, even 2,000 years. If he ran into such an old monster, Xiao Chun could not guarantee that he would be unrivaled among the third heaven Emperor Wu. When Xiao Chun looked up, he vaguely saw an emperor's door in the sky. This was not an illusion. Every blue-robed emperor who was about to undergo his great tribulation of wind and fire would see this emperor's door. When the great tribulation of wind and fire descended, this emperor's door would appear in the real world. Steps of different colors would descend. These steps were known as the Emperor's Road. Each step was a hurdle, and each step was a tribulation. If one could clear the great tribulation of wind and fire and reach the end of the steps, they would be able to open the Emperor's door. Chapter 13:15. Xiao Chun entered the realm that all cultivators dreamed of. Since ancient times, countless heroes and outstanding talents have fallen on this Emperor's Road. As he looked at the Emperor's door hidden between reality and fantasy, Xiao Chen's emotions were complicated. There was fervor, fear, and desire. However, they all turned to calm in the end. There is still half a year. The great tribulation of wind and fire is drawing closer. It is time for me to return to the Kunlun realm. Xiao Chen muttered to himself as he sorted out his emotions. After a simple farewell to Lu Suifeng and the Xiao clan's relatives, he started his own journey back to the city. Xiao Chen had not returned for 2.5 years. He did not know how chaotic the entire Kunlun realm was. Was the Thunder King still missing? Was he alive or dead? What kind of waves would his Dragon's Gate experience in this great chaos? There was also the friends who came to congratulate him at the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment ceremony. Were they doing well in this great chaos? Xiao Chun really wanted to know. Ingyu sent Xiao Chun off at the transportation formation in the Great Qi Nation's royal palace. Ingyu said somewhat worriedly, "Take care on the way." The Ying clan sent news from the Kunlun realm. Right now, the Kunlun realm is very chaotic. Several older generation people died mysteriously. Some of the blue-robed emperor even cleared his great tribulation of wind and fire. Everyone can feel that the world is changing. Xiao Chen frowned and asked, "Is it that serious?" Xiao Chen already knew that the Kunlun realm was in great chaos. However, he did not expect it to be this chaotic, far worse than he imagined. Ingyu sighed softly. Actually, from the moment the demons made a move to snatch the Sky Dome heart, I already guessed that there would be great chaos. However, the great chaos this time is completely different from the previous demonic calamities. It will sweep through the entire Kunlun realm. No one can avoid it. Xiao Chun said sullenly, "You take care as well." As Ingyu sent off Xiao Chun with her eyes, her heart grew increasingly sullen. With Xiao Chen's departure, the peaceful days of the Sky Dome realm would come to an end. With the arrival of great chaos, Xiao Chun, who had been at peace for 2.5 years, arrived at the center of the storm, returning to the Kunlun realm. After leaving the teleportation formation, Xiao Chun saw Mo Chun, who had been waiting for a long time already. After 2 years, Mo Chun's aura had become even denser and heavier. Xiao Chun was slightly shocked. Mo Chun, you've reached the consummate stage of blue-robed emperor? After walking closer to take a look, Xiao Chun discovered that Mo Chun had actually reached the blue-robed emperor realm of perfection. Just 2 years ago, the other party had only reached the level of greater mastery of the blue-robed emperor. In just 2 short years, he had actually broken through to the level of greater mastery. Of course, Xiao Chun using 1 year to break through was an exception. He had obtained a fortuitous encounter and obtained the Bloodsword Sovereign's secret technique, which allowed him to condense the heart of an emperor. Mo Chun smiled and said, "The Book of Heavenly Works, the further one cultivates, the more harvest there will be. However, there is still a gap between me and those blue-robed emperors who have attained great perfection in the celestial battlefield. My comprehension was mainly in the area of refining tools." Xiao Chun now understood. While Mo Chun did not seem to be fighting in the celestial battlefield, her comprehension of the Book of Heavenly Works did not rely on that in the first place. It relied on making breakthroughs in refining. With the Dragon's Gate's current resources and the Book of Heavenly Works, it would not be strange for her to break through to the level of consummation blue-robed emperor. That's right. Why don't I see Lan Xiaobai, Yu Chenxi, and the others? Mo Chun sighed and said, "Right now, the Kunlun realm is too chaotic. They all went out 1 year ago, wanting to break through to the level of consummation blue-robed emperor as soon as possible." Feeling curious, Xiao Chun asked why. Mo Chun explained that group of outstanding talents from the astral battlefield all returned. Half of the peak outstanding talents of the Kunlun continent's 5 major races died. When Xiao Chun heard that, he was stunned. This was somewhat horrifying. The losses were too great. Xiao Chun came from the Kunlun realm and knew the talent of those outstanding talents. If they did not die, they would most likely advance to Martial Emperor. It was just a matter of time. It could be within 100 years or 10 years. In other words, half of the future Emperor Wu of the Kunlun realm had died. However, those who came back alive, without exception, all reached the level of consummation blue-robed emperor. Among them, the personal disciples of the various primes shone the brightest. Of these primes inheritors, Di Wuk is the most famous. The two chatted as they walked. From Mo Chun, Xiao Chun learned that Di Wuk had made great preparations. After he returned from the astral battlefield, he had already defeated several older generation Emperor Wu. The personal disciples of the other primes, like the Xingtian Emperor, the Dongyue Ghost Emperor, the Haotian Prime, and the Fox King, were also extraordinary, all of them ridiculously strong. The most important thing was that these people all exuded sharpness and drive. Their auras were as dazzling as the blazing sun, overshadowing many of the older generation Emperor Wu. No wonder all the young cultivators of Heavenly Star Island went out to seek fortuitous encounters. They probably all felt the pressure. As for the chaos in the Kunlun realm, it was truly a mess. Aside from the deity race, whose situation was slightly better, the other races were in chaos. There was no need to say much about the Tianwu domain's humans. The Thunder King had disappeared, and the Bushin Palace had fallen into chaos. The 3 holy masters wanted to take advantage of the situation and ascend to the position of Bushin Palace's palace lord. However, the old Thunder King's faction, led by the Haotian Prime, naturally would not allow it. Now, the two factions clashed, neither giving way. They were like fire and water. Big brother Ing Zongtian had the strength of a prime. However, when facing the 3 holy masters and the hidden accumulations of the Holy Lands, he was at a slight disadvantage. As for the Fiend race, due to the need to determine a new Fiend King's successor, all sorts of old monsters came out to kill their way out. Similarly, the Corpse race and the Ghost race could not avoid falling into chaos. The original conflicts were magnified infinitely. It was like a mysterious faction was stirring things up in the dark. After returning to his personal courtyard, Xiao Chun rubbed his head as he listened to Mo Chen's explanation. He felt somewhat confused, but Imo-chun had already done her best to simplify things. The actual situation was 100 times more complicated than that. Right now, the Kunlun realm was like a pool of muddy water. No one dared to say that they could truly see the situation clearly. Xiao Chun sat down and asked, "How is the situation in the heavenly starry ocean? Has our dragon's gate been affected? Also, has the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace made any moves?" Imo-chan sighed softly. Similarly, it is extremely chaotic. In the past 2 years, the number of lands of fortuitous encounters that were discovered in the oceanic world is dazzling. All sorts of experts took advantage of the situation to rise up. Several of the older generation blue-robed emperors, who did not dare to undergo their tribulations, underwent their tribulations in batches to protect themselves, making the situation even more chaotic. Xiao Chun understood. Previously, he did not undergo his tribulations because he feared that the great tribulation of wind and fire would burn him to death. Now, he was forced by the situation. If he wanted to survive, he had to advance to martial emperor. Imo-chan thought for a while before saying, "In the past 2 years, at least several hundred blue-robed emperors died in the great tribulation of wind and fire. However, news of them clearing their tribulations kept coming in. As for the Dragon's Gate, it is strange. It has been very peaceful. Furthermore, the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace has been even stranger. They took the initiative to pull back their faction, showing no intention of seeking trouble at all." Xiao Chun sighed softly. This was really strange. He was very clear on the Western Sea Dragon King Ao Lang's temper. He was definitely not the kind of person with great boldness. After Xiao Chun left for 2 years, the Western Sea Dragon King actually did not seek trouble for the Dragon's Gate. There had to be something wrong with this. However, Xiao Chun ignored the Western Sea Dragon King for now. He had more important things to do. He told Imo-chun about obtaining the heavenly snow divine flame and asked her how to refine and subdue such a primal chaos level flame. When Imo-chun heard that, she rejoiced. Heavenly snow divine flame. To think that you actually obtained such a primal chaos level flame. This is a legendary flame. Elder brother Xiao Chun, you truly live up to being someone with great fortuitous encounters. Don't worry, I know how to refine it. As a Grandmaster Blacksmith and with the Book of Heavenly Works, Mo-chun could be said to be very familiar with all sorts of flames, not lacking in knowledge at all. A primal chaos-level flame, like the Heavenly Snow Divine Flame, required Emperor Wu's strength to refine it. However, Xiao Chun had the heart of an emperor and could refine it now. He only needed to use a secret technique to find 10,000-year-old ice and seal the heavenly snow divine flame in ice. Then he swallowed it and absorbed it into his heart of an emperor. As for nourishing such a divine flame, he needed a secret treasure similar to a Buddhist lamp. After that, he had to use ice-attributed natural treasures to refine lamp oil to nourish this flame. Imo-chun frowned and thought hard. Such a secret treasure similar to a Buddhist lamp is too hard to find. If there is no other way, I can help you refine a peak Buddhist lamp. Unfortunately, you found me too late. Otherwise, this heavenly snow divine flame would be very useful for your great tribulation of wind and fire. If only I had returned to the Sky Dome realm with you at that time. Imo-chun showed a serious expression, appearing extremely frustrated. When she saw Xiao Chun, she smiled and said, "Why are you even more anxious than me?" Imo-chun grumbled, "How can I not be anxious? Your great tribulation of wind and fire only has half a year left. If anything happens to you..." At this point, Imo-chun quickly shut her mouth. Clearly, she realized that it was best not to say such inauspicious words. When Xiao Chun heard that, he smiled softly and said, "Don't worry. I promised you that I would personally see you remove your veil. Before that, I will not die." Imo-chun nodded and said, "You definitely won't. I also promised you that I would protect you during your great tribulation of wind and fire. Oh, right, there's one more thing. You came back a good time. Elder Qin is about to undergo his great tribulation of wind and fire," Imo-chun said, recalling something. Xiao Chun was not that surprised. Elder Qin was very old. He had been stuck in the blue-robed emperor realm for several hundred years already. Once he reached consummation blue-robed emperor, he would have sufficient accumulations and could undergo his tribulation at any time. This is a good thing. My Dragon's Gate owes Elder Qin a debt of gratitude. I will definitely do my best to protect him. However, the timing is not very good. The Haotian sect is currently locked in a fierce battle with the three holy masters and cannot send anyone to help him. Imochen shook her head and said, "That is not the crucial point. Elder Qin has to succeed in advancing to martial emperor." "What do you mean?" "First of all, after he advances to martial emperor, the Dragon's Gate's strength will increase significantly. After that, it'll be easier for Lan Xiaobai and the others to advance to martial emperor, forming a good cycle. However, if he fails, not only will the Dragon's Gate lose a senior elder, but it will also affect the luck of the Dragon's Gate. The most direct impact will be on you," Imochen said with a serious expression. Luck was an extremely strange thing. Elder Qin had long been tied to the Dragon's Gate, complementing each other. If he failed to advance to martial emperor, it would definitely affect the Dragon's Gate's luck. Xiao Chun thought about the black tribulation clouds when the Dragon's Gate advanced to martial emperor. His heart sank as he realized the severity of the matter. Imochen said softly, "If we can see the problem clearly, others can as well. When Elder Qin advances to martial emperor, it will definitely affect everything." As the two discussed Elder Qin's advancement to martial emperor, the news of Xiao Chen's return to the Kunlun realm quickly spread to the various powerhouses of the Heavenly Starry Ocean. Chapter 13:16. At the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace, the Western Sea Dragon King Ao Lang immediately received news of Xiao Chen's return. "Father, I can confirm that Xiao Chen is back," the young master of Dragon Palace said excitedly and expectantly. Ao Lang nodded casually and said, "I got it. You may withdraw." The Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace's young palace master, Ao Feng, was startled. He asked, "Father, what's wrong? Didn't we endure for 2 years for this opportunity? Could it be that Haotian prime beat you until you lost all your temper? That fellow made me kneel and told you to scram from Heavenly Star Island. What a great humiliation." Ao Lang glared at Xiao Chun and shouted angrily, "How dare you? Brat, what do you know? Every time, you're the one who fails to accomplish anything but spoils everything. Scram." Angry at Ao Feng for not putting up a fight, Ao Lang sent Ao Feng flying with a palm strike. After that, he still felt worried. He said to one of his trusted subordinates, "Keep a close eye on him. Don't let him cause trouble during this period." Yes, a powerful Emperor Wu walked out from the darkness and quietly followed Ao Feng. Once he discovered that Ao Feng was acting on his own, he would immediately stop him. After a while, a letter appeared in his hand. He said with a grave expression, "This treasure master is indeed mysterious. To think that he already knew that Xiao Chun was returning 2 days ago." At that time, Xiao Chun was still in the Sky Dome realm. Unexpectedly, he still had a faction in the Sky Dome realm. However, there was one more piece of news from the treasure master that puzzled Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun ordered Xiao Chun to use the blood-clad guards to prevent the Dragon's Gate's Elder Qin from advancing to martial emperor. Furthermore, he strictly ordered Xiao Chun not to attack Xiao Chun. "Remember, don't attack Xiao Chun. The time isn't right. This operation is only to deal with Elder Qin, not Xiao Chun." Ao Lang put away the letter and said coldly, "If you don't want to make a move, then so be it. I already endured for 2 years. I don't care about a moment longer." Then he walked toward a mysterious island controlled by the West Ocean Dragon Palace. Many formations and all sorts of horrifying restrictions surrounded the island. Even a sovereign martial emperor would find it hard to break through here. There's nothing strange happening with the first formation. There's nothing strange happening in the second formation. The 99th spell formation hasn't moved. As Ao Lang walked, the people controlling the formations continuously appeared and reported to him. This was not a long journey, but Ao Lang traveled for 1 hour before he landed on the island. This showed how many restrictions and formations there were. Greetings, Dragon King. Seeing Ao Lang arrive, the 300 red-clad cultivators flew over from all over the island and knelt on the ground, speaking in unison. The martial artist's red clothes glowed with a blood-like brilliance. After wearing this red clothes, the martial artist's aura became extremely strange, giving off a very evil feeling. These were the blood-robe guards. The blood-robe guards were extremely strange. As long as one wore them, not only would their strength increase greatly, but their cultivation speed would also increase explosively. The treasure master had given the scarlet clothes to Xiao Chun. Furthermore, the treasure master had told Xiao Chun the method to make them. Xiao Chun was originally interested in the scarlet clothes, but after seeing the side effects, he no longer dared to touch them. As long as they wore the blood-stained clothes, it meant that they were walking on the path of death, and their lifespan would not exceed 5 years. Normally, no one would be willing to wear such an evil item. However, the West Sea Dragon Palace had been passed down for many years, so there would always be some kamikaze warriors willing to die. 2 years ago, these cultivators were only martial sages. Some of them were even weaker. However, after 2 years, their strength had increased at a horrifying rate. Unexpectedly, they all reached the level of First Heaven Emperor Wu. Some of the more talented ones even reached the level of Third Heaven Emperor Wu. However, the upper limit of these scarlet clothes seemed to be the Third Heaven Emperor Wu. No matter how much they cultivated after that, they would not be able to advance to Greater Heavenly Emperor Wu. However, this was already sufficient. Who could imagine that he, Ao Lang, already had 300 Emperor Wu level kamikaze warriors? Looking at these blood-robe guards, Ao Lang felt very ambitious. Now, even if he faced a huge faction like Zodiac Hall, he would not fear it. 4 blood-robe guards should be enough to deal with an insignificant Elder Qin. To be safe, I should increase the number to 10. Even though Xiao Chun had guessed that the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace was unusual, he would not have imagined that the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace hid such a horrifying faction. At this moment, Xiao Chun was refining the Heavenly Snow Divine Flame. He followed the method that Imochen taught him and successfully absorbed the Heavenly Snow Divine Flame into his heart of an emperor. The heart of an emperor was a void. Aside from the whirlpool formed by the 100 strands of primordial energy and the lightning triggered by the whirlpool, there was nothing else. After the Heavenly Snow Divine Flame entered, a cold aura immediately spread throughout the entire void. Whoosh! Frost covered Xiao Chun's entire body. Xiao Chun could not help shivering. How cold! 1 hour later, Xiao Chun's body slowly adapted to this extreme cold. However, frost infiltrated his black hair, turning it as white as snow. Unexpectedly, subduing the Heavenly Snow Divine Flame has such side effects. Xiao Chun smiled bitterly as he looked at his white hair in the mirror. Suddenly, the scene in the mirror changed, and little 3 appeared. She giggled and said, "This is normal. In the past, during the Immortal epic, many immortals subdued primal chaos-level flames. Some of them even had their skin turn red. Elder brother, white robes, this is already considered good. After you completely grasp it, it will slowly recover. However, there are benefits to this as well. Try it, and you will know." As the item spirit of the 3-life mirror, Little 3 was very knowledgeable and experienced. Xiao Chun followed Little 3's instructions and sensed it. He discovered that the Heavenly Snow Divine Flame in his heart of an emperor seemed to have merged with his body. Releasing the Heavenly Snow Divine Flame was like his innate skill, extremely easy. With a thought, he could send out patches of snow-white flames with a gentle palm strike. He could control these flames to descend quietly like snowflakes or form a snowstorm that swept out ferociously. After testing the might of the Heavenly Snow Divine Flame in the desolate mountain, Xiao Chun felt extremely satisfied. This was just the initial stage, but the might of the flame was already sufficient to injure an ordinary Emperor Wu. A primal chaos-level flame truly lived up to being a legendary flame. If Mo-chan refined the Buddhist lamp and slowly nourished the flame, raising its quality and quantity, it would reach a horrifying level. 3 days later, Mo-chan sent someone to inform Xiao-chun, telling him to go to Elder Qin's residence. Elder Qin's great tribulation of wind and fire is about to begin. Xiao-chun muttered. Time was really tight. Right after Xiao-chun spoke, his figure flashed, and he arrived at the peak where Elder Qin cultivated. Little friend Xiao-chun, it has been 2 years since we last met. Why are you not coming to visit this old man? The one who spoke was Lan Xiaofeng, who had also rushed over. Xiao-chun smiled apologetically. Sorry. This junior just refined a primal chaos level flame and was trying it out in the past few days. A primal chaos level flame. When Lan Xiaofeng heard that, he was so shocked that his jaw nearly fell off. I say, little fellow, why did your hair turn white? You are really lucky. I'm so jealous that it makes me go crazy. A primal chaos level flame is a flame that only appears in legends. Even those primes of the Kunlun realm probably do not have one. Xiao-chun remained very calm. He smiled and said, it is not that exaggerated. At least, it is not that horrifying yet. Little fellow, your mental state is already stronger than mine. You are here to protect old Qin, right? Lan Xiaofeng said. Xiao-chun nodded and said, Senior Lan, what do you think? What are the chances of Elder Qin clearing his great tribulation of wind and fire? Lan Xiaofeng's face sank slightly. He sighed softly. It is not very optimistic. The great tribulation of wind and fire is very difficult to clear in the first place. Furthermore, Elder Qin's luck is tied to the Dragon's Gate. If someone makes a move in secret, it will be even more difficult to say. Once the Thunder King leaves, the world will instantly fall into chaos. As a living legend, the Thunder King was the strongest person of the Kunlun realm, fully deserving of his title. The reason why the Kunlun realm did not fall into chaos despite the various races fighting for hegemony was the Thunder King's prestige. With him around, the strong deity race would never dare to openly claim hegemony. With him around, the demon monarchs of the deep abyss demonic world would not dare to play any tricks in the Sky Dome realm. With him around, some of the major characters would appear to mediate between grudges. Everyone would give the Thunder King some face. However, the moment the Thunder King left, the Kunlun realm fell into utter chaos. The fragile order immediately broke. The reason for this was actually very simple. After the fall of the Qing Emperor, the Kunlun realm did not have a true king that everyone trusted. Without a strong king, there was no way to set rules. Without rules, there'd be no chaos. Although the Thunder King was strong, he could only maintain order on the surface. After all, he was not as strong as the Qing Emperor. The wooden door to a simple wooden hut at the summit opened, and Elder Qin and Mo-chun walked out together. When Mo-chun saw the white-haired Xiao-chun, she found it strange. She asked, Big brother Xiao-chun, what's going on with your hair? Xiao-chun smiled casually and replied, Some side effects from refining the heavenly snow divine flame. That's not a problem. Let's discuss Elder Qin's great tribulation of wind and fire. Worry appeared in Elder Qin's eyes. He performed a cupped fist salute and said, This time, I really have to trouble the few of you. Elder Qin is too polite. We are all family, so there's no need to say so much, Xiao-chun said with a nod. Lan Xiaofeng smiled and said, Old Qin, most blue-robed emperors will go through this. Let's go in and talk. The four entered the hut together and discussed Elder Qin's tribulation. Lan Xiaofeng had the final say in this matter. Xiao-chun did not say anything, only listening. Xiao-chun's great tribulation of wind and fire was coming soon. He could learn about it at the same time. Lan Xiaofeng took a sip of tea and said, In the past, when things were peaceful, one could choose any place to undergo the tribulation. If we spoil the blue-robed emperor's tribulation, we will definitely suffer the revenge of one of the factions. Right now, the world is in a mess. We have to plan properly before choosing a place to undergo the tribulation. Mo-chun continued. First of all, we can eliminate Heaven Dragon City as the place to undergo the tribulation. Right now, Heaven Dragon City is filled with crooks and honest folk. The waters are too deep. However, during the tribulation, when the mysterious phenomenon appears, it will definitely startle the surroundings. It will not be possible to hide it. That's right. However, we have to choose a more remote place. At the very least, if someone tries to cause trouble, they will need some time to rush over. After Mo-chan said that, she took out a stack of information and handed it to everyone. This is what I collected in the past 2 years. It is the information of those who succeeded in their tribulations. Although it is not very complete, it should be useful as a reference. Lan Xiaofeng teased. Little girl Mo-chan, you probably collected this for someone. I'm guessing that Elder Qin is just passing by. Chapter 13:17. When Mo-chan heard that, she blushed slightly and said, "What nonsense are you speaking?" Elder Qin smiled and said, "Old Lan, stop being so jealous. You're already so old, yet you are still not being serious." Xiao Chan felt somewhat embarrassed. Of course, the someone Lan Xiaofeng was referring to was himself. However, at this moment, Xiao Chan could only feign ignorance. Otherwise, it would be even more awkward. Speaking of which, the information that Mo-chan gathered was indeed very useful. Soon, Xiao Chan forgot about what happened earlier, immersing himself in the information. Without exception, all the people who underwent their tribulations in the past 2 years were ambushed. Along the way, it was hard for cultivators to avoid forming grudges with others or opposing factions. They were not willing to see their opponents grow stronger, so they would definitely send people to interfere. Being ambushed was normal. It was just that the strength of the attack was different. To think that there are so many blue-robed emperors who succeeded in their tribulations. It looks like the laws of the world have changed in the past 2 years. Historically, this is a sign of chaotic times descending. Lan Xiaofeng sighed and shook his head as he put down the information. In this age of peace and tranquility, there would definitely not be so many blue-robed emperors who cleared their great tribulations of wind and fire. Only chaos would create fluctuations and fortuitous encounters. This is the information of those who failed. Mo-chan said softly as she took out another pile of information. The information on those who failed was clearly several times more than those who succeeded. When Elder Qin looked through the information, his expression turned grave. There were many successes, but there were even more failures. Xiao Chen looked very carefully. Slowly, he discovered something wrong. He frowned slightly and said, "Why do I feel that no matter how well hidden these people who cleared their great tribulations of wind and fire are, they will be discovered within 1 hour and sniped?" The three's expressions changed slightly. They had not noticed this detail earlier. Now, it looked like everyone, regardless of whether they succeeded in clearing their tribulations or not, they would all be discovered within 1 hour. Xiaoqi did not say much. However, when he did, he immediately hit the nail on the head. Lan Xiaofeng said sullenly, "If it is not a coincidence, then there must be a horrifying faction behind this. At the very least, their intelligence network is the best in the world." The location of the tribulation transcendence was a secret. For example, when Elder Qin underwent his tribulation, only the 4 people present knew where it was. Yet, that mysterious power was able to capture it within an hour. Just the thought of it made one shudder in fear. And Mo-chan said, "In that case, it looks like there is no need to care where I choose to undergo my tribulation. I'll just choose a small island in the sea region of Heavenly Star Island." Lan Xiaofeng said, "Since it is unavoidable, there is no need to worry about this." When is Elder Qin preparing to undergo his tribulation? Elder Qin pondered for a moment before saying, "Let's do it today. Whether I succeed or not, I'll accept it. As a martial artist, I have to take this step." Mo-chan quickly took out the sea chart and circled it with her finger. This one, that was a desolate island outside of Heavenly Star Island. It was very small and did not have many resources. Normally, it would not attract much attention. After deciding on the location, everyone began to discuss who would come to snipe them. First of all, the West Ocean Dragon Palace would have a lot of them, even though it had been quiet for the past 2 years. However, it was still a problem for the Dragon's Gate. If it was not eliminated, it would never be at peace. Next would be the Holy Lands that came to cause trouble during the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment ceremony. The Five Poisons Sect, the Zodiac Hall, the Divine Dragon Palaces of the Four Seas, the Heavenly Province Academy, and the ancient noble clans. Lan Chaofeng smiled and said, "These holy lands are too far away. There is no need to worry too much. The one we are truly worried about is the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace. That fellow has been low profile and mysterious for the past 2 years. Furthermore, he is very close to the Dragon's Gate, so we need to be wary of him." During the discussion, Xiao Chun spoke very little. His opinions were even fewer, nearly none at all. This attracted Mo Chen's attention. "Big brother Xiao Chun, what's wrong? Do you have a different opinion?" Xiao Chun put down the teacup in his hand. "I just feel somewhat regretful about how difficult it is to advance to Martial Emperor. I feel like I've let Elder Qin down. Thinking about how Elder Qin followed me to Heavenly Star Island, he helped me a lot along the way. In the end, he ended up creating trouble for you." Elder Qin quickly said, "What are you saying? Little friend Xiao Chun is too polite. If not for the resources of your Heavenly Star Island, I would not have advanced to Martial Emperor so quickly." Xiao Chun swirled the teacup in his hand. He did not reply or say anything. He only said indifferently in his heart, "No matter who it is, as long as they come to cause trouble, no matter where they are, I will take revenge ruthlessly." That was right. This was an oath. Even during the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment ceremony, Xiao Chun did not make an oath. The reason was none other than that those were targeted at him. He did not care. However, this time, his benefactor was implicated. This already touched Xiao Chen's bottom line. When one touched the reverse scale of a dragon, one would die. Although Xiao Chen did not say anything, the other three could feel the silent rage in Xiao Chen's heart. The atmosphere turned somewhat silent. Lan Chaofeng said, "Old Qin, let's go." "Oh, right, little Asimo Chun, there is no need for you to go. Just stay in Heaven Dragon City. I'm afraid that some people will take the opportunity to cause trouble while I'm not here. Don't worry, just go. Nothing will happen to Heaven Dragon City. Take care." Xiao Chen's group of 3 left. After a while, they arrived at the designated island. Lan Chaofeng pulled Xiao Chun and walked 1 kilometer away from Elder Qin. Then, he explained, "Everything within 1 kilometer will be affected. We just have to stand guard outside." Elder Qin took a deep breath and looked to the sky. There was an emperor's door there. The fog scattered, filled with boundless temptation. Once one advanced to Martial Emperor, one's lifespan would immediately increase to 2,000 years. Suddenly, a strong wind surged out from Elder Qin, kicking up sand and rocks. The wind was like a sharp blade, and the dust was like a sword, incredibly sharp. "It's starting," Lan Chaofeng muttered. "They will arrive in 1 hour. Let's see if that mysterious faction is really that horrifying." Xiao Chen squinted and looked at the storm. He saw Elder Qin's aura rising infinitely. It was like a mountain flood that had been suppressed and accumulated for a long time suddenly erupted, showing signs of breaking through the sky. Mysterious phenomena appeared high in the sky. Lightning flashed, thunder roared, and dark clouds covered the sky. The surrounding seawater trembled endlessly. Even the small island was trembling nonstop. Xiao Chun entered deep thought. This was the first step of the tribulation. He had to unleash his full strength and trigger a mysterious phenomenon, making the Emperor's door descend from the sky. Amid the strong wind and lightning, Elder Qin thought of his experiences in the past few centuries on the path of cultivation. He roared ferociously, releasing all the anger that he had suppressed for hundreds of years. There was no need for fear, no need for fear. At this moment, he only needed to vent to his heart's content, letting the heavens hear his rage. With a shout, Elder Qin's might temporarily surpassed the might of the world. The world suddenly turned quiet. Everything seemed to come to a standstill, an extremely wondrous sight. When Xiao Chan looked carefully, he could see that every speck of dust floating in the air was fixed in place. Boom! However, after a moment of silence, a furious roar came from the sky, sounding like it was dissatisfied with Elder Qin. The ancient door descended from the sky and hovered in the air before landing heavily. The world trembled. In that instant, when the Emperor's door descended, it brought with it a heavenly might. This made Xiao Chun and Lan Chaofeng feel like they could not resist it, like they had suffered a heavy blow. It was extremely horrifying. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Many jade-white steps descended from the Emperor's door, giving off a heavenly mandate. The jade-white steps continued to descend. After reaching 1,000 steps, they stopped. Xiao Chun was entranced by this sight, but he could not understand it. He could not understand what this meant. He asked Senior Lan, "What is the meaning of the colors and the number of steps on the Emperor's Road?" Lan Chaofeng explained, "There are many ways. The colors of the Emperor's Road are white, blue, purple, and gold. The denser the color, the stronger the great tribulation of wind and fire. According to legend, during the most glorious period of the martial epoch, there were 7 colored steps or even 9 colored steps. When the Emperor's Road descended, colorful clouds flew and auspicious signs filled the sky. It was a miracle of the world. However, it has not appeared for a very long time already. I have only seen a golden one. That was when Emperor Forsaken underwent his great tribulation of wind and fire. The golden light was so dazzling that no one dared to look at it directly. Indeed, that fellow did not disappoint everyone, surpassing the 9 heavens and reaching prime. There is also a kind of Black Emperor's Road that is unique to demons and evil cultivators when they undergo their tribulations." Xiao Qin now understood. This color represented a person's accumulations and accumulations. The darker the color, the stronger the great tribulation of wind and fire. In the future, one's accomplishments would also be higher. Of course, that was assuming one could finish walking the Emperor's Road. A colorful Emperor's Road had only appeared in legends. Now, a golden Emperor's Road appeared. This was already a heaven-defying matter. Most of the Emperor's Roads were white and blue, with relatively little purple. As for the number of steps, it was also a manifestation of one's accumulations. The stronger one was, the more steps they would have. Xiao Chun wondered what color his Emperor's Road would have when he underwent his tribulation and how many steps there would be. 1,000 steps and a jade-white color. It looks like old Qin's accumulations are still lacking. I believe that the outstanding talents of your generation will have at least a purple Emperor's Road when they undergo their tribulations. There will be at least 3,000 steps. However, this is good for old Qin. At the very least, the intensity will not be too high, and it will be easier to clear the great tribulation of wind and fire." As the two spoke, intense determination flashed in Elder Qin's eyes. Then, he leaped into the air, wanting to step onto that Emperor's Road. Whoosh! However, just as Elder Qin was about to land, a huge fireball fell from the sky. The blazing fireball seemed to give off an intense light, so piercing that it hurt one's eyes. This sudden turn of events caught Xiao Qin off guard. He squinted and felt a piercing pain. However, Lan Chaofeng had been prepared long ago. He circulated his primordial energy to protect his eyes, so he was fine. This is a rank 3 solar true flame. It is not particularly powerful, roughly equal to a strike from Emperor Wu of the First Heaven. Elder Qin should be able to break it. Xiao Qin understood. No wonder it felt familiar. It turned out to be the solar true flame. However, Xiao Qin's solar true flame was far from being able to rival Emperor Wu's with a casual strike. It was still far from that. Everywhere the fireball passed, it left behind a long flame tail in the air. That flame tail was like a snake, filled with spirituality as it swayed about continuously. When facing this fireball formed by the solar true flame, Elder Qin did not dare to be careless. He executed his martial technique, Meteor Palm. Xiao Chun moved like a meteor tearing through the starry heavens. When he threw a palm strike, it was like a meteor exploding, striking the fireball. Boom! The fireball shattered, turning into golden motes of light scattering everywhere. Chapter 13:18. As he descended, countless sharp wind blades suddenly flew out of the steps. Elder Qin took out a long sword and quickly brandished it. At the tip of the sword, a fiery light appeared, like a meteor streaking across the sky. This was the meteor sword art that Elder Cheen practiced. Clang, clang, clang. After 100 moves, all the wind blades were blocked. Elder Cheen was unharmed. He steadily stood on the steps of the Road of Emperor. Lan Xiaofeng said softly, "Good. There are many blue-robed emperors who fell at the first stage before even stepping on their emperor's road. Elder Cheen, to be able to pass the first round unscathed, it seems like your foundation is very solid." However, this was only the beginning. There were 1,000 steps, and each step was a hurdle, and each step was a tribulation. First there was wind, then there was fire. 300 types of wind, 300 types of fire. Finally, wind and fire came together. The wind borrowed the power of the fire, and the fire borrowed the power of the wind, burning the heaven and earth cleanly. The first step, cold wind manifestation. Just how cold was it? Even the formless wind had turned into sharp, ice arrows under the freezing temperature. It was evident. 900 ice arrows fell like raindrops. With just one step, Elder Cheen's saint body had suffered 100 wounds of different sizes. Seeing this, Xiao Chun sucked in a breath of cold air. How did the wind blow here? It was so cold that it turned into ice arrows. The second step, fierce wind whip. The whistling wind condensed into long whips, lashing the air with crackling sounds, making one tremble in fear. Xiao Chen's movements were a little slow, and Elder Cheen received a vicious slap on his face. The wound was horrifying, making one's hair stand on end, even though Xiao Chen's mental fortitude was terrifyingly strong. At this moment, his body was still trembling slightly. Furthermore, he had only taken 2 steps. Furthermore, this was only the relatively ordinary great tribulation of wind and fire. Lan Xiaofeng did not find this strange. His expression remained calm as he analyzed calmly. That's right. Although there are many wounds on Elder Cheen, they're not fatal. Passing the wind tribulation shouldn't be a problem. Every step he took was a calamity. Elder Cheen was covered in wounds. He gritted his teeth and walked silently. That kind of perseverance caused those who saw it to be moved and unable to bear it. Xiao Chun now finally knew why so many people didn't dare to transcend this wind and fire tribulation. It was too difficult, too miserable. You must get through it, Xiao Chun murmured in his heart, silently encouraging Elder Cheen. Just at this moment, Xiao Chun and Lan Xiaofeng exchanged glances at the same time. The two of them both sensed that someone was currently flying over. Elder Cheen hadn't even taken 10 steps before he arrived. "Let me," Xiao Chun said faintly before his figure disappeared. In the sky, 6 thunderbolts fell. As the lightning illuminated the sky and earth, a blurry white figure could be seen in that instant. It seemed as though he had struck out with his palm towards the void. His movements were so fast that people could only see after images. They couldn't be sure. Hu Qi. The instant the lightning vanished, 6 figures appeared at the same time. Their complexions were slightly pale, clearly horrified. They had been forced out of the void by someone's powerful palm force while they were traveling through it. Blue Dragon King, please don't misunderstand. We only sensed some abnormalities in the spiritual energy fluctuations and came to take a look. We did not know that the Dragon's Gate's Elder Cheen was undergoing his tribulation. One of the gray-clad old men looked at the white-haired, white-clad Xiao Chun and explained. Xiao Chun sized up the 6. Then, he performed a cup fist salute and said, "I won't say anything unnecessary. No matter which faction you come from, leave now. I, Blue Dragon King Xiao Chun, owe you a favor." The 6 people who rushed over were slightly stunned, wondering if they heard wrong. The Blue Dragon King showed off his sharpness. During the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment ceremony, Emperor Wu had faced off against the Western Sea Dragon King against the 13 greater heavenly cultivators. However, when facing 6 minor heavenly cultivators, Emperor Wu was so polite, easily taking a step back and leaving them a favor. This was simply unbelievable. The 6 reacted and quickly said, "Blue Dragon King, you are too polite. This is just a small matter. This is not much of a favor. We will just leave. Let's congratulate the Dragon's Gate's elder in advance for clearing his tribulation. The six had only rushed over from Heaven Dragon City to see what was going on. They came out of curiosity and had no other purpose. Since Xiao Chun was so polite, naturally, they would give him some face, doing him a favor at little cost. Xiao Chun said sincerely, "Many thanks." They came quickly and left quickly as well. The six left in the blink of an eye. Xiao Chun heaved a sigh of relief. Everything revolved around Elder Qin's tribulation. If he could avoid making a move, he would. That would be for the best. After that, a few more people came from Heaven Dragon City. However, Xiao Chun persuaded them to leave with kind words. Right now, Heaven Dragon City was already the center of the Western Sea. Normally, many Emperor Wus gathered there. It was not strange for them to rush over at this time. Fortunately, the Blue Dragon King's name still held some prestige. Many Emperor Wus gave him some face. Suddenly, Xiao Chun discovered 10 red-clad cultivators with strange auras on the surface of the sea. A bad feeling welled up in Xiao Chun's heart. Then his figure flashed, and he landed in front of the 10. "Stop! The Dragon's Gate's elder in front is undergoing his tribulation. Please leave." The clothes of the 10 red-clad people were like blood. There were no decorations or patterns on them. They looked like they were dyed in blood. Xiao Chun felt extremely uncomfortable looking at them. His spiritual sense was very sharp. He could even vaguely sense a sinister resentment from these red-clad people. It was extremely strange. What was even stranger was that Xiao Chun could not make out the cultivation of these red-clad people, either. This was an extremely strange thing. With Xiao Chun's current eyesight, even a prime would be able to sense it. Could these 10 people be even stronger than primes? That was impossible. Xiao Chun could not even sense a heart of an emperor from them. The leader of the blood-clad guards looked like a middle-aged man. He had a pale complexion and an eye-catching black mark on his forehead. This person completely ignored Xiao Chun's words as he led the others to the small island. Soon, they were less than 100 meters from Xiao Chun. This was already an extremely dangerous distance. A murderous intent surged in Xiao Chun's heart. He said indifferently, "I'll say it again. The Dragon's Gate's elder is undergoing his tribulation. Do not approach this place." The middle-aged man revealed a cruel smile. "Others treat you as the Blue Dragon King and give you some face. However, in my eyes, you are nothing. If you move aside now, I will not seek trouble for you. If you do not, you will bear the consequences." Although the middle-aged man said that, he did not give Xiao Chun a chance to reply at all. After the middle-aged man said the last 2 words, he charged at Xiao Chun, not caring about the morality of a cultivator at all. When the middle-aged man threw a palm strike, there was no earth-shaking aura or horrifying emperor's might. It was just an ordinary palm strike with only a hazy scarlet light and a dense resentment spreading out in all directions. Xiao Chun had long been on guard. With his rich combat experience, he would not fluster over such a small trick. Xiao Chun circulated all the law energy in his body. In the time it took for a spark to fly, he sent out a palm strike, accompanied by ear-splitting thunder. Boom! The 2 palms clashed, and Xiao Chun's body flew back like a cannonball. As for the middle-aged man, he did not move at all. Such a result was completely unexpected. Xiao Chun spun around a few times before he managed to dissipate the force of the other party's palm strike. Blood leaked out of a corner of his lips. He had clearly suffered a great loss. The middle-aged man withdrew his palm and stood upright. Then he said gently, "The Blue Dragon King is only SOSO. I did not even use half of my strength." Xiao Chun analyzed calmly. That earlier palm strike did not have the support of primordial energy. However, its offensive power reached the level of a second Heaven Emperor Wu. The other party had not used half of his strength yet. In other words, this person possessed the peak strength of a third Heaven Emperor Wu. Whoosh! The middle-aged man turned into a beam of scarlet light and arrived in an instant. Then, he launched a lightning-quick attack at Xiao Chun, who had just landed. A scarlet sword appeared in the middle-aged man's hand. As he swung it, scarlet light shot out in all directions. The rumbling of water did not stop. That was a sea of blood surging in the air. Its aura was startling, pushing Xiao Chen back step by step. However, there was still no Emperor's might. The destructive power of a peak third heaven martial emperor was the real deal, no exaggeration at all. Xiao Chen could not help feeling even more astonished. Where did this group of people come from? They did not have Emperor's might or a heart of an emperor, but their destructive power was on par with Emperor Wu's. He had never seen or heard of such a thing before. The other party's attacks were too ferocious. Without using his primordial energy, Xiao Chen was not a match for them at all. After 100 moves, Xiao Chen crossed his arms in defense and got kicked away again. As he retreated, Xiao Chen pushed off the ground with one hand and gently pushed off. He spun 3 times in the air before standing firm again. The ways of the world have changed long ago. Don't think that just because people call you the Blue Dragon King a few times, you can truly be called a king. The middle-aged man kicked Xiao Chen away with a strong aura. Half of his strength was enough to force Xiao Chen into such a sorry state. This filled the middle-aged man with confidence. He instructed, split into 5 to deal with Lan Xiaofeng, for to disrupt that old fogey's tribulation. Leave this brat to me. Xiao Chen wiped off the blood at the corner of his lips and smiled faintly. Who gave you such strong confidence to deal with me alone? Let me tell you this, none of you can get past me. The middle-aged man thought that victory was already in his grasp when he could force Xiao Chen into such a sorry state without even using half his strength. However, from the start to the end, Xiao Chen did not use his primordial energy at all. He did not even take out the lunar shadow saber. Half of Xiao Chen's strength was not even half of his. He was far from using it. The primordial energy split into 2 and chased each other endlessly. The Taiji force field instantly formed. The blood-clad soldiers, who wanted to get past Xiao Chen, suddenly got pulled back by a suction force. Within 1 kilometer, they were all trapped in Xiao Chen's Taiji force field. Even if they wanted to get out, there was no way. Xiao Chen narrowed his eyes as he looked at the middle-aged man in front. In the end, it is hard for you to use unorthodox methods to reach the upper echelons. There are no shortcuts on the path of cultivation. I'll show you what Emperor Wu's true combat prowess is. Quick! The blue dragon goes to sea. Clouds move in all directions. Xiao Chen's figure suddenly moved as fast as lightning. He was like a blue dragon leaping out of the sea, displaying a startling aura. The middle-aged man felt shocked. Before he could react, Xiao Chen had already pressed forward. The middle-aged man had no choice but to make a move to block this palm strike. The middle-aged man used his full power to throw a palm strike. In terms of aura, it was no weaker than Xiao Chen's. Its destructive power was even more startling. However, this palm strike only had the form and the aura, but no might. The middle-aged man had not undergone the great tribulation of wind and fire. He did not have the heart of an emperor or the emperor's might. No matter how strong the destructive power of this palm strike was, in a true clash, the middle-aged man would only be at a disadvantage. Chapter 13:19. The middle-aged man cried out in pain as he flew back and vomited large mouthfuls of blood. Bang! Xiao Chen moved his body gently. The air was like water, and he was like a fish swimming in the water, sticking close to the other party. He sent out 10 moves in a row, forcing the other party to retreat without being able to defend himself. After seeing Xiao Chen's true strength, the middle-aged man roared in shock. There's no need to care about me. Attack that old fogey undergoing his tribulation with all your might. The lunar shadow saber appeared in Xiao Chen's right hand. Then, he asked indifferently, do you think there's a chance? Slow. Everything in the Taiji force field seemed to slow down. Xiao Chen blocked 10 alone, moving slowly. He did not even need to draw his saber to hold back the other party, suppressing the 10 people. After figuring out the strength of this group of scarlet-clad people, Xiao Chen felt more confident. He did not even merge his saber domain into the Taiji force field. He only used the Taiji force field together with the fish dragon art to suppress the other party with the strange changes of speed and slowness. The world spun around. The surrounding scenery seemed like fleeting light and shadows. Lan Xiaofeng, who was watching from afar, felt slightly stunned. He could not understand. What martial technique is this? On the surface, it looks like it is just the state of fast and the state of slow. However, why does it feel so harmonious? His movements are also so calm. Originally, Lan Xiaofeng was prepared to help. However, after seeing this, he abandoned that thought. Explode. Just as Lan Xiaofeng felt that Xiao Qin's movements were calm and peaceful, vaguely merging with the world, Lan Xiaofeng suddenly sheathed his saber. As his white hair fluttered, the Taiji force field suddenly exploded. Strong winds blew everywhere, and dust filled the air. Wind blew everywhere, and dust filled the sky. This part of the world seemed to have been blown up to the point where there were no rules. 10 odd figures fell out of the dust, all in sorry states, severely injured and weak. Their spirits were dispirited, and their eyes appeared dispirited. However, their scarlet clothes still looked bright, glistening with a scarlet light. Xiao Qian moved 1 kilometer with each step. Then he slowly walked out of the dust, wind, and rain. His white clothes and white hair made him look as graceful as before, untainted by dust, looking peaceful and peaceful. The middle-aged man received the most attention and was the most heavily injured. He smiled and said, "No, the Wonder Master told us not to get lucky before we came. Blue Dragon King Xiao Chun, you are indeed outstanding. Speak. Who sent you here? How can you have such strange powers? Tell me honestly, and I'll spare your life." Xiao Chun gently lowered the scabbard of the lunar shadow saber and pressed it against the middle-aged man's forehead. This group of people had mysterious origins and strange strength. If he had not comprehended the Taiji Dao, it would have been very troublesome to deal with them. More importantly, Xiao Chun wanted to figure out why this group of people, who clearly had not undergone a tribulation, did not have a heart of an emperor or a primordial energy, could have the offensive prowess of Emperor Wu. The middle-aged man spat out a mouthful of blood and laughed crazily. "Xiao Chun, what are you so proud of? Do you think you've won? You actually used death to threaten me. Huh. This is the funniest joke I've ever heard. We're a group of dead people in the first place. No matter the result of this battle, you will always be the one to suffer. No matter how strong you are, you will not be able to change the result. This old fogey will definitely die today." The 10 people's bodies swelled up continuously. The scarlet light of their clothes slowly seeped in, quickly dimming the color of their clothes. Xiao Chen's expression changed drastically. Without exception, these 10 people were all death-sworn warriors. They were going to self-detonate. As long as one of them succeeded in self-detonating, they could destroy this island and affect Elder Qin, who was on the Emperor's road, causing him to fail his tribulation. In the distance, Lan Xiaofeng was startled as well. Such a turn of events was completely unexpected. Even if Lan Xiaofeng made a move now, he would not be able to stop everyone from self-detonating. If he miscalculated, he would lose everything. Xiao Chun glanced at Elder Qin, who was on the Emperor's road, out of the corner of his eye. Elder Qin had only managed to take 200-odd steps. The bone-chilling wind had already torn his clothes to shreds. The strong wind was merciless. The armor under his clothes was also damaged. His body was covered in wounds, a sorry sight to behold. The most shocking thing were the 2 scars on Xiao Chen's face, which looked like he had been whipped. However, even so, Xiao Chun had not given up. Even so, Elder Qin did not give up. He walked forward step by step with a hopeful gaze. Elder Qin, who was immersed in his great tribulation of wind and fire, could not afford to be distracted at all. He did not notice that there were still 10 strange cultivators preparing to self-detonate. Hope! Xiao Chun felt a pang in his heart. Elder Qin had followed him all the way to this vast, heavenly starry ocean. From the Dragon's Gate's initial establishment, he had gone through many trials and tribulations, all the way until the Dragon's Gate's official establishment. Elder Qin had made great contributions and never asked for anything. However, in this great tribulation of wind and fire, could it be that I cannot even give him a trace of hope? Major magic skill, Dermic World. As long as Shao Chun executed the Dermic Whirl magic skill, he could instantly trample this group of bastards to death. However, for a long time, Shao Chun needed at least 3 seconds to prepare to execute Dermic Whirl. However, in the current situation, the 10 madmen would self-detonate in the next second. Shao Chun would not have 3 seconds to prepare. No, absolutely not. No matter what, I, Shao Chun, will leave this trace of hope for you. Rage? Madness? In that case, I will give you the strength to trample on all the injustices in this world. In Shao Chun's sea of consciousness, the Dermic world hidden in the deepest depths felt Shao Chun's baleful aura and suddenly opened its eyes. Instantly, Shao Chun's mind became incredibly clear. There were no obstructions in executing Dermic world, making it incredibly smooth. As Shao Chun's white hair fluttered, his eyes looked exceptionally scary. Just as the 10 blood-clad guards' bodies swelled to their limits and were about to self-detonate, Shao Chun's body suddenly swelled up, reaching 3 kilometers tall. At the same time, Shao Chun's strong aura also increased. His aura was like a surging wave. Lan Xiaofeng, who was rushing over, got careless and got pushed back by this wave. When Shao Chun's body reached 3 kilometers tall, Shao Chun felt an unprecedented strength. He glared at the group of madmen below and ruthlessly stomped down. Amid rumbling sounds, Shao Chun used absolute strength to crush the 10 blood-clad guards into a pool of blood as he stomped on them. Whoosh! 3 seconds later, intense pain racked Shao Chun's entire body, and he shrank back to his original size. Boundless blood seeped out of his skin as he fell from the sky. No major magic skill could be executed in one go. This was especially so for a heaven-defying major magic skill like Dermic World. Not a single step could be skipped. Shao Chun forcefully shortened the 3-second execution time to 1 second. The repercussions that followed were unavoidable. Just as Shao Chun was about to fall to the ground, a gentle wind slowly arrived and supported him. It was Lan Xiaofeng. Lan Xiaofeng reacted very quickly. The instant Shao Chun turned back, he threw a palm strike. Shao Chun landed firmly on the ground. Without saying a word, he quickly swallowed a sage medicinal pill to suppress the injuries in his body. "Brat, are you all right? Don't move. Let me take a look." Lan Xiaofeng rushed over and said, "Why did you put in so much effort? You made it look like you underwent a tribulation. What else do you want me to say to you? Don't end up dying while Elder Qin is still alive." Although Lan Xiaofeng said that Shao Chun was very powerful, he kept checking on Shao Chun's injuries with a tense expression. This warmed Shao Chun's heart. He smiled bitterly. This senior Lan is always like this. After a while, Lan Xiaofeng heaved a sigh of relief. "Brat, consider yourself lucky. It is just the rebound of a martial technique. Fortunately, it is not too strong." Actually, Shao Chun also knew that the backlash was somewhat strong. However, it was not to the point where it would be fatal. However, seeing Lan Xiaofeng's anxious appearance, Shao Chun could only let Lan Xiaofeng personally check on Shao Chun before he could relax. "Thank you, Senior Lan." Lan Xiaofeng snorted coldly with a serious expression. "Even if your life is not in danger, you should not put in so much effort. You might end up attracting your great tribulation of wind and fire ahead of time. At that time, even God would not be able to save you." The great tribulation of wind and fire came ahead of time, catching people off guard. Shao Chun understood this principle and did not dare to rebut. Shao Chun looked around and pointed to the front. "Look, Elder Qin is about to undergo the final tribulation of wind." Lan Xiaofeng quickly turned his head and saw 3 tornadoes surging over. The strong winds made Elder Qin's body sway slightly. The power of these winds was startlingly strong. Each tornado was 1 kilometer tall. As they charged over, they kicked up dark clouds in the sky. Lightning flashed and thunder roared, rumbling endlessly. Gritting his teeth, Elder Qin forcefully charged over. His body instantly disappeared into the 3 tornadoes. The hearts of Shao Chun and Lan Xiaofeng tightened at the same time as they stared at the tornadoes. This was especially so for Lan Xiaofeng. He had undergone the great tribulation of wind and fire before and knew how powerful the final wind tribulation was. Many people had died at this stage. After one breath, Elder Chin did not appear. 2 breaths, 3 breaths, 4 breaths, and there was still no sign of Elder Chin. The two's expressions turned somewhat unsightly. Even though Xiao Chun had not undergone the great tribulation of wind and fire, he knew that the situation was not good. A ferocious roar rang out. Elder Chin's figure pierced through the storm and landed somewhat unsteadily. Fire! The moment Elder Chin landed, an overwhelming fire spread out on the platform, burning Elder Chin's body. Lan Xiaofeng relaxed for now. He smiled and said, Old Chin is at least 60% confident of clearing this great tribulation of wind and fire. Xiao Chen asked, What do you mean? Lan Xiaofeng said, Old Chin has 2 trump cards. I originally thought that he would use one of them for the final wind tribulation. Who knew? It would be useless. He forcefully endured it. This will bring him great benefits later on. The raging fire burned ceaselessly. Every step was filled with flames of different attributes. However, this path of fire did not have any tricks. The person undergoing the tribulation had to walk it all the way. It would be fine if one could walk it. However, if one could not, one would be burned to death on it, not even leaving a corpse behind. Even one's soul would scatter. Lan Xiaofeng sighed and said, The pain that this fire tribulation brings is even more direct than the wind tribulation, 10 times more painful. It mostly tests the willpower of the person undergoing the tribulation. Several people collapsed on their Emperor's Road, not because they could not endure this fire tribulation, but because of the pain. When Xiao Chun heard this, he felt astonished. The Emperor's Road was difficult. While it was a trial that heaven gave to cultivators, it was also an opportunity. After clearing this Emperor's Road, one's lifespan would increase to 2,000 years. What gift could be better than this? However, Old Chin is still fine. His flames are only rank 3. The fire tribulation that I underwent back then was simply fatal. Not only were the flames rank 7, but there were also fire demons in them. With every step I took, I would suffer the attacks of fire demons. Chapter 1320. Thinking of the past, Lan Xiaofeng sighed. Xiao Chun asked out of curiosity, Senior, what was the color of this Emperor's Road back then? Lan Xiaofeng smiled and said, Even if I tell you, you definitely won't believe me. What color? The Golden Emperor's Road has 3,000 steps. With every step, it was like carrying a mountain. Even gravity changed. Xiao Chun did not dare believe it. Emperor Forsaken, who also had a Golden Emperor's Road, had reached prime. How come Lan Xiaofeng was not even a sovereign martial emperor? This was incredible. Lan Xiaofeng smiled bitterly and said, I know you do not believe me. I brought this on myself. I killed too many people and am covered in sin. The 9 heavens lightning tribulation is so strong that it makes one despair. Let me give you a reminder. The heavenly Tao is fair. Don't commit too many sins. There will be a time for revenge. This startled Xiao Chun. He asked, what is sin? Sin was something that could be seen during the Immortal epoch. Now it is somewhat vague. However, it definitely exists. Killing ordinary people, slaughtering the weak, cultivating evil cultivation techniques. All of these will result in sin. Lan Xiaofeng smiled and said, You don't have to worry too much about this. Normally, only those evil cultivators and assassins like me would be covered in sin. Killing those heinous criminals and those who attack you will not result in any sin. As they spoke, Elder Chin cleared the fire tribulation. The Emperor's door was only 300 steps away from him. He could clearly see every tiny pattern on the door. However, the latter 300 steps would be even more horrifying. That was the true test. Lan Xiaofeng thought to himself, Old Chin, Xiao Chen already helped you obtain this hope. Whether you can clear it or not will depend on your luck. In the tallest pavilion of the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace, A.O. Lang looked into the distance, focusing on the island where Elder Chin underwent his tribulation. This place was tens of thousands of kilometers away from that island. Even though he was a sovereign martial emperor, he could not see that far. However, once the blood-clad guard succeeded, the explosion would affect the road of Emperor. Even from tens of thousands of kilometers away, Xiao Chun would be able to clearly see the mysterious phenomena triggered by the failure of the tribulation. He had been looking forward to it for a long time, but the expected explosion did not appear, which made him a little annoyed. Why isn't it exploding yet? After a while, he seemed to be a little restless, wondering if something unexpected had happened. However, after thinking about it, Lan Xiaofeng felt that it was impossible. 10 Emperor Wu self-detonated. Even if Lan Xiaofeng was present, he would not be able to stop all of them. Furthermore, as long as one person succeeded in self-detonating, it would affect Elder Qin's tribulation. If a few more succeeded, even Lan Xiaofeng and Xiao Chun would be injured. If one was lucky, they might even draw out Xiao Qin's great tribulation of wind and fire in advance. Dong dong dong. The sound of footsteps came from below. A man hurriedly walked out of the stairs and knelt down. Dragon King, all 10 life tablets on the blood-clothed island are broken. What? Ao Lang roared angrily, glaring angrily. This frightened the kneeling person into trembling, not daring to raise his head. The blood-clad guards were Ao Lang's trump card. He treated every one of them as a treasure. Death-sworn warriors were something that had to be nurtured from a young age. Without several decades, one death meant one less. Now, Ao Lang was told that all 10 life tablets were broken. That was to say, the 10 people who went to disrupt Elder Qin's tribulation were all dead. However, this was not the crucial point. These 10 people were just sending themselves to death in the first place. The crucial point was that Ao Lang did not see any mysterious phenomena at all. That was to say, Elder Qin was still undergoing his tribulation. Ao Lang's losses were all for nothing. Ao Lang's heart bled. This was simply unacceptable. The blood-clad guards were so strong and did not fear death, much stronger than a regular Emperor Wu. Looking around, which Emperor Wu would dare to casually self-detonate? Damn it, what's going on? Ao Lang's eyes flickered. After he calmed down, he continuously analyzed the situation. However, he could not figure out what was going on. Why did the foolproof plan fail? Reporting, Your Highness the Dragon King, the Divine Daughter Tian Yushi, and the 2 Holy Scions are here to seek an audience. Another person came with a message. Ao Lang waved his hand impatiently and said, I will not meet them. I already said long ago that the deity race absolutely will not be allowed to build a temple on the islands that the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace controls. After the Thunder King disappeared, the deity race's faction expanded rapidly. Traces of the deity race could be seen everywhere in the Kunlun realm. There were also many factions in the heavenly starry ocean that felt pressured or wanted to gain benefits. The Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace allowed the deity race to build temples and statues of deities in their own factions to receive the power of faith. However, the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace had deep accumulations. Furthermore, the Divine Dragon Palaces of the 4 seas could take care of each other. They did not fear the deity race's pressure in the heavenly starry ocean. Furthermore, Ao Lang had the blood-clad guards. Hence, he was even more confident, never agreeing to the deity race's requests. Wait a moment. Suddenly, Ao Lang thought of something. Are you saying that the holy scions you mentioned are the 2 from the Bushin Palace? That's right. The White Tiger Holy Scion Xiaoju and the Black Tortoise Holy Scion Feng Wuji are both there. However, the Divine Son Di Wuk is not there. Only the Divine Daughter Tianyu, she is there. Ao Lang revealed a strange smile on his face. Interesting. The 3 Holy Masters have not been able to deal with Ing Zongtian. It looks like they are getting anxious, actually working together with the deity race's people. Isn't this just inviting a wolf into the house? I'll go take a look and see what these juniors are up to. Everyone knew that before the Thunder King disappeared, he had handed the Bushin Palace's inheritance medallion to the Haotian sect master, Ing Zongtian. The 3 Holy Masters could not accept this. Hence, the secret struggle between the 2 sides turned into an open struggle. However, although the 3 Holy Masters held the upper hand, they could not take down the Haotian sect, resulting in a stalemate. Inside the hall, The divine daughter Tianyu Shi and the sons of the three holy masters sipped tea as they waited leisurely. Xiahou Ju asked, "Will this Aolang agree to us?" Although the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace has declined in the past few years, it is still an old faction with deep accumulations. Feng Wuji also felt suspicious. He said, "Furthermore, I heard that he has been rejecting your deity race in the past." The divine daughter Tianyu, she had white hair and an extraordinary air. She smiled faintly and said, "That was then, and this is now. Furthermore, there are the two of you here. Given his astute character, he will definitely be able to understand the deeper meaning of this." "Ha ha! The divine daughter has arrived from afar. This Ao did not go out to welcome you. Forgive me, forgive me." Ao Lang walked over amid loud laughter and sat down in the middle. The loss of 10 blood-clad guards did not show any suspicion on his face. "Greetings, Western Sea Dragon King," Xiahou Ju and Feng Wuji said with cup-fist salutes. No matter what, Ao Lang was the senior of these people. Ao Lang smiled and said, "I have also heard of the two holy scions' names. After you returned from the astral battlefield, I heard that even some of the Emperor Wu's were no match for you two." Ao Lang's eyes were very sharp. With one glance, he could tell the difference between Xiahou Ju and Feng Wuji and the holy scions of the heavenly starry ocean. Their auras were denser and heavier. Most importantly, they had a sharpness and a ruthlessness to them. With one glance, it was clear that they had experienced killing for a long time. Compared to the holy scions of the heavenly starry ocean, they were much stronger. Compared to his most valued son, Ao Feng, there was no need to compare. The more Ao Lang compared, the sadder he felt. Why did Ao Lang give birth to a trash son? Not only was he useless, he even caused trouble for himself. "You are too polite." Hearing Ao Lang's flattery, Xiahou Ju and Feng Wuji both appeared very calm. The many years of experiential training in the astral battlefield had already worn away the ostentatiousness of the two. Tianyu, she put down his teacup and said indifferently, "Time is tight. I cannot speak much with Senior Ao, so I'll get straight to the point. I have no other purpose in coming here this time. I just want the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace to join the deity Tao Union." Senior Ao probably knows that the great chaos now is just the surface. The true great calamity is far from here. When the great calamity arrives, aside from working together to fight the enemy, there is no other way. Ao Lang felt somewhat confused. He understood what Tianyu said. The great chaos now was indeed just the surface. However, what kind of organization was the deity Tao Union? He had never heard of it before. Tianyu explained, "The deity Tao Union has just been established. It is normal for Senior Ao not to understand. I'll give a simple explanation. The deity Tao Union has Emperor Forsaken as its alliance chief. The heaven-punishing corpse god, the Dongyue Ghost Emperor, and the three holy masters are the vice alliance chiefs. It unifies more than 70% of the 9 ranks of the great families in the Kunlun continent." When Ao Lang heard this, he sucked in a breath of cold air. No wonder this Tianyu, she did not show any intention of bowing when he saw him. Even the two holy lords were just being polite. Compared to this colossal deity Tao Union, his Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace was pitifully small, unable to withstand a single blow. Fortunately, he still had the treasure master and the blood-clad guards behind him. In the end, he still had some trump cards. By the way, the most mysterious treasure master of the heavenly starry ocean has already agreed to join the deity Tao Union. Emperor Forsaken personally negotiated this. However, the treasure master did not ask for any position. Boom! It was like a bolt of lightning struck Ao Lang's mind. The hand that he held the teacup trembled slightly, and the teacup fell to the table. This final piece of news was too shocking to Ao Lang. Even the treasure master, whom he considered the most mysterious and unfathomable, actually joined the deity Tao Union. Tianyu smiled and asked, "Senior Ao, what's wrong?" Ao Lang reacted and said, "It's fine, it's fine. Can I think about it for a while?" Tianyu rejected. "No way. We do not have time to waste here. It is fine if Senior Ao is not willing. The deity Dao Union never forces anyone. Goodbye. Xiaoju and Feng Wuji stood up at the same time, not saying anything more. Such a situation made Ao Lang somewhat anxious. Originally, he was prepared to ask Tianyu Shi for a price and then bargain with him. Who could have imagined that Tianyu Shi would leave directly? Divine Daughter, there is no need to leave in such a rush. Our Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace is rather scenic. Stay here for a few more days. I will discuss this with my brothers, and we'll have an answer soon. The Divine Dragon Palaces of the Four Seas have always been a community. I simply cannot make a decision alone. Ao Lang's figure flashed, and he arrived before the group with a pleading smile. Tianyu Shi smiled and said, Heavenly Star Island scenery is pretty good. However, we really have important matters to attend to. Dragon King, take your time to think about it. However, after you think about it, the situation in the Western Sea might change. Ao Lang's heart sank. Suddenly, he thought of something and asked in understanding, Are the few of you here because of the Dragon's Gate's Elder's tribulation? Tianyu Shi smiled faintly and said, That's right. This is a small gift that Emperor Forsaken gave to the three holy masters after they agreed to join the deity Dao Union. The Dragon's Gate's Blue Dragon King has been arrogant for too long. It is time to suppress him. Not everyone can successfully clear their tribulation. Chapter 1321. When Ao Lang heard that, his face sank. Then he made up his mind. I agree to join the deity Dao Union. If the deity race wants to build a temple here and spread the faith of the deity race, I will not stop them. On the nameless island, Lan Xiaofeng watched anxiously as Elder Qin underwent his tribulation. At the same time, he did not relax, keeping his guard up at all times. At this crucial moment, if someone came to cause trouble, everything would be for naught. Xiao Chen walked over and checked the corpses of the 10 blood-clad guards. More accurately, they were just a pile of mush. The blood-clad guards were prepared to self-detonate. Their bodies were already rotting from the inside out. Furthermore, Xiao Chen kicked them from the outside. Under the pincer attack, they turned into mush covered in blood. Xiao Chen felt very curious about these blood-clad guards. However, there was no way to check the corpses. Only some tattered clothes remained. These clothes were dripping with blood and filled with a sinister aura. Xiao Chen flicked out a strand of energy and tore the tattered clothes into the air. When he looked carefully, he heard a faint resentment. As the cloth floated, it looked like a snake wriggling gently. Xiao Chen flicked his finger, and a strand of solar true flame came from his fingertip, burning the cloth. Thousands of miserable shrieks came from the cloth. Black smoke spread out. That was dense death qi, the most common in the demonic world. Xiao Chen showed a slightly startled expression. It looked like these blood-clad guards had some connection to the demonic world. Xiao Chen could see several humanoid figures twisting and struggling in the black death qi. They were indistinct. As the solar true flame burned them, they slowly dissipated. Whoosh! Suddenly, the death qi struggled free of the restraints of the flame and ferociously charged at Xiao Chen. You are seeking death. He raised his hand and struck out with his palm. The death qi was immediately scattered in all directions. Xiao Chen withdrew his hand and frowned. It is really resilient. It looks like these blood-clad guards are quite skilled. After saying that, he flicked out 6 strands of saber qi. Only then did the scattered death qi disappear. As Xiao Chen watched the death qi disappear, he entered deep thought. Although death qi was somewhat strange, there were people in the Kunlun continent who used it as well. The ghost race and the corpse race both cultivated death qi. However, most of their death qi came from dead people. They would not kill the innocent. Of course, some evil cultivators were excluded. The scarlet robes before Xiao Chen had definitely killed many innocent people for no reason, resulting in an extremely strong resentment. As a result, the solar true flame could not completely extinguish them. Sinful. Xiao Chen shook his head, and a look of disgust flashed in his eyes. He wondered how many innocent lives had been sacrificed to forge this blood-red robe. In truth, He did not know that the method to create blood robes was far crueler than he imagined. A normal grudge would not have such great tenacity. They had to use children, infants, pregnant women, and other carriers. Not only did they have to kill them, but they had to be tortured to death. Whoosh! Xiaoqian returned to Lan Xiaofeng's side. On the Emperor's Road, a halo of flowing water appeared around Elder Qin as he climbed the final step with much difficulty. That was Elder Qin's final trump card, a Peak King grade secret treasure that he had specially prepared for his tribulation. He even asked Mo Chan to strengthen it. Lan Xiaofeng asked casually, "Did you notice anything?" Xiaoqian replied sullenly, "Not much. I only feel that it has something to do with the methods of the demonic world. However, many of the demonic world's secret techniques are circulated in the Kunlun realm as well, so it's hard to say." Lan Xiaofeng sighed softly. "That is not strange. Right now, many of the unremarkable factions of the heavenly starry ocean suddenly soared. They all possess some demonic treasures similar to this scarlet robe. How can the deep abyss demonic world's shadow be missing in this chaotic world?" Whoosh! Beams of resplendent light suddenly shone from behind them. The golden light seemed to be solid, dyeing the world in a golden color. Many afterimages of golden light appeared before Xiaoqian and Lan Xiaofeng. The two turned around and saw that the source of the light was a golden warship bathed in divine light. Sagely songs resounded around the warship, praising the deity sovereign continuously. The people of the deity race. They came all the way here. It looks like they do not come with good intentions. Lan Xiaofeng narrowed his eyes, and a heavy, murderous intent flashed in them. Whoosh! Sonic booms resounded, and a group of figures descended. The divine daughter Tian Yushi, the 12 keepers guarding the divine sun and divine daughter, the white tiger holy sun Xiao Ho Ju, and the black tortoise holy sun Feng Wuji. Aside from these people, there was another person in the sky. This person appeared to be a middle-aged man with white hair and wearing golden robes. The light on this person's body flickered, and golden halos flickered behind him. There was a total of 7 halos. This was a 7th heaven deity race, sovereign martial emperor. With such a large lineup, Xiaoqian and Lan Xiaofeng did not dare to be careless. The two flew forward and blocked the other party from getting any closer. Xiaoqian swept his gaze across the people in front and discovered that this group of people's auras were exceptionally calm. Amid the seriousness, there was also a sharp and somber air. The experiential training in the astral battlefield must have allowed these survivors to mature. Xiaoqian, Xiao Hoju said through gritted teeth when he saw the white-haired Xiaoqian. He could no longer suppress the hatred in his eyes. A divine halberd flew over and blocked the berserk Xiao Hoju. Then Tian Yushi said calmly, "Calm down. Don't forget what the deity sovereign said. Right now, his luck is flourishing. The entire heavenly Tao is taking care of him. This is not the time to kill him." Xiaoqian smiled faintly and said, "Brother Xia's sharpness has not diminished. You are still as impulsive as before. However, the 3 holy masters always move as one. Why do I not see the holy daughter, Nuan Muyun?" Xiaoqian had a good impression of this holy daughter. Back then, when he first came to the Kunlun realm, he had received some benefits from her. Furthermore, given Xiaoqian's judgment, this Nuan Muyun would not be as difficult to deal with as the other holy science. If she were here, perhaps he could negotiate with her. "She is dead." Xiao Hoju looked at Xiaoqian and said coldly, "She died in the astral battlefield. She died because of you. This debt is on you." Xiaoqian was indeed somewhat surprised. It was said that more than half of the outstanding talents who went to the astral battlefield died. However, he had not expected a holy daughter to fall. Furthermore, it was a holy daughter that he had interacted with before. Xiaoqian was a little disappointed and emotional. However, no matter what, it was not his turn to bear this debt. Xiaoqian replied indifferently, "Xiao Ju, I have never feared an enemy in my life. If you want to kill me, please find another reason. If you want to take revenge, please look for the devil dweller who killed her." Xiao Hoju said somewhat angrily, "You bastard, how can this have nothing to do with you? If not for you putting too much pressure on us during the king conferral ceremony, I would not have done so. Don't need to go to the Star Wars battlefield. If Miyun wasn't worried about us, why would she accompany us? Tell me, does this have anything to do with you? Xiao Chun was startled when he heard this and didn't know how to refute it. Don't worry, I've already killed that demon myself. The next one will be you, the main culprit. Xiao Hoju looked coldly at Xiao Chun. Then, he glanced at Elder Qin, who was walking on his emperor's road with much difficulty. He smiled coldly and said, "It is really difficult for him to walk. You want him to advance to martial emperor, right? Let me tell you this, it is impossible. Today, I will make you watch him burn to death on his emperor's road. I will plant a heart demon in you. I will break the luck of your dragon's gate." Xiao Chun raged in his heart. He shouted coldly, "How dare you? Even if it is as you said, that I am responsible for Nuan Muyun's death, you could just come at me, Xiao Chun. Don't even think of harming the innocent. Don't touch my bottom line." Tianyu, she said indifferently. "I'm afraid that we will really touch it this time. Attack," Xiao Chun said casually. Then, that seventh heaven sovereign martial emperor's figure flashed as he charged at Lan Xiaofeng. The 12 keepers spread out in a straight line, wanting to surround Xiao Chun and hold him back. Tianyu, she led Xiao Hoju and Feng Wuji into the sky, flying towards the emperor's road. Everything happened in an instant. Emperor Forsaken had calculated the strength of the Dragon's Gate. For the sake of suppressing Xiao Chen's side, he did not even hesitate to send a sovereign martial emperor. However, just at this moment, something strange happened. An intense explosion rang out in the sky. Tianyu Shi and the others turned their heads to look and saw their warship shattering into golden dust. Then, it turned into an extremely gorgeous light scattering in all directions. Sonic booms rang out as an arrow flew over. It carried a might that could destroy the world. It left a long black mark in space, destroying all life force. Everything above that black mark was blasted into nothingness by the power of the arrow. Retreat. Horror flashed in the eyes of the deity race, sovereign martial emperor locked on by the arrow as he quickly retreated. The expressions of Tianyu Shi and the others changed drastically. They frantically retreated, their footsteps hurried and flustered. Although Tianyu Shi and the others did their best to scatter, the shock waves still struck them. The perfect formation immediately fell apart. The shock waves from the explosion of the arrow knocked them all into the air. When the deity race, sovereign martial emperors landed, they stumbled back another 100 meters. Blood leaked out of a corner of their lips, and their complexions paled. Just the shock waves alone reduced this group of outstanding talents, who had just returned from experiential training in the astral battlefield, to such a miserable state. If they had been struck head-on, the result would have been easy to imagine. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Tearing sounds rang out incessantly as hundreds and thousands of arrows flew over from the sky. Although the might of this arrow was much weaker than the earlier one, it was faster and covered a wider area. One person and one bow forced this group of outstanding talents into a sorry state, forcing them to retreat. The deity race, seventh heaven Emperor Wu frowned and fixed his gaze on the person holding the bow. Then, his figure flashed, wanting to charge over. Emperor Wu was very clear that this person was an outstanding archer. Given sufficient distance, she could suppress the group of people below. Right now, the more problematic thing was that she already held the initiative, grasping the rhythm. Only by getting close and disrupting her rhythm could Emperor Wu regain the initiative. "Your opponent is me." Lan Xiaofeng moved like a shadow, suddenly appearing on the left of this deity race, sovereign martial emperor. He smiled faintly and stabbed the dagger in his hand. The dagger was fast, accurate, and ruthless. It pierced through in an instant, startling that deity race, sovereign martial emperor, who broke out in a cold sweat. The two fought an intense battle in the air, preventing the deity race, sovereign martial emperor from delaying the archer. Chapter 1322. Xiao Chun turned his head back and saw an exquisite figure leaping on an azure profound bird tens of kilometers away. That figure danced in the air as arrows flew out from his hands in a fluid and smooth manner. Ahead, Tian Yushi and the others were forced to retreat step by step. Soon, they retreated to the surface of the sea. Xiao Chun smiled faintly and said, Emperor Yi Shooting Sun Bao, first senior sister, is here. Seeing Xiao Chen smile, Shui Lingling, who was on the profound bird, nodded gently. Seeing Xiao Chun approach step by step, Tian Yushi and the others could not do anything. The white tiger Holy Sun, Xiao Ho Ju, gritted his teeth in anger. Shui Lingling, don't give me a chance to get close. Xiao Ho Ju replied with an even faster, more ruthless arrow. Xiao Ho Ju stretched out a finger and shattered it. After that, he quickly retreated. Rumble! Waves roared on the surface of the sea, and pillars of water shot up into the sky. The group was forced further and further away. By the time Shui Lingling landed beside Xiao Chun, they had already retreated several hundred kilometers. First senior sister, why are you here? Xiao Chun asked joyfully. If not for Shui Lingling, Xiao Chun would not know what to do. That guardian of the deity race knew the combined attack technique. Furthermore, she had been training in the starry heavens, nurturing her sharpness. If they really fought, Xiao Chun would not be afraid. However, he would be unable to avoid being delayed for some time. In this period of time, Tian Yoshi, Xia Hojue, and Xiao Chun would be able to do many things, such as spoiling Elder Qin's tribulation. The moment first senior sister arrived, the situation instantly reversed. Xiao Chun now held the initiative. Shui Lingling revealed a gentle smile. Master called me over. He knew that Emperor Forsaken and the three holy masters would definitely make a move when Elder Qin underwent his tribulation. So, he got me to rush over with the Emperor, Yi Shooting Sun Bao. Xiao Chun asked doubtfully, doesn't this Bao not have an artifact spirit? Shui Lingling played with the bow in her hand with a smile and said happily, Hee, Master has finished forging it for me. Now, it has 70 to 80% of the power of a transcendent divine weapon. However, I can only shoot 3 arrows out of the profound skill that comes with the divine bow, the shooting sun arrow. Xiao Qin smiled and said, that's enough. The enemy's momentum is in chaos, and the initiative is in our hands. As the huge waves surged, Tian Yoshi led the 12 keepers, Xia Hojue, and Feng Wuji out of the waves and landed on the small island once more. However, this time, his imposing manner was completely gone. He did not have the initiative and calmness from before, and his figure was slightly disheveled. Tian Yushi, Xiao Ju, and Feng Wuji were still fine, uninjured. However, the 12 watchers were in a miserable state, riddled with arrow wounds and covered in blood. When Shui Lingling saw Xiao Ju, she showed a stern expression and scolded, Xiao Ju, is there anyone as shameless as you? Back then, during the king conferral ceremony, you forced my junior brother, Xiao Chun, several times. Now, you're blaming Xiao Chun for it. Also, Nguan Muyun clearly died to save you. You are useless, so why are you blaming my junior brother? Xiao Ju said coldly, there is no need for you to care about my matters. You won't be able to remain smug for long. The Haotian sect will suffer a calamity soon. Just wait and see. Shui Lingling glared at Xiao Chun and said, you really think too highly of yourself. To think that you are so smug after becoming the deity race's lackey. Xiao Ju, Feng Wuji, have you forgotten the days when we fought together in the profound domain against Diwuk? Feng Wuji and Xiao Ju were stunned at the same time. They had not expected Shui Lingling to bring up the past. Once upon a time, Shui Lingling and Juanxi and the others were known as the 7 giants of the Tianwu domain's younger generation. Feng Wuji and Juanxi were the sons of the 3 holy masters above the 7 giants. At that time, they were aloof and aloof. When Feng Wuji and Xiao Ju recalled the past, they were rendered speechless. Even Xiao Ju was somewhat stunned. When Tian Yushi saw the situation, he thought to himself, oh no, this woman is too incredible. Even Xiao Ju is somewhat shaken by her words. Shui Lingling, that was then, and this is now. Now the deity Dao union is already established. Furthermore, the divine son Diwuk comprehended the deity race's ancient canon. Soon, he will rise to the heavens in one step. Only the deity Dao union is the trend. Tianyu, she said calmly. Even if you rely on the power of the divine Bao to force us back today, it will not change anything. Shui Lingling glanced at Tianyu, and smiled faintly. Don't try to reason with me. I know that Di Wuk is a man, hiding and not daring to show himself. Letting a woman like you take the lead is the sign of a coward. Even if he rises to the heavens in one step, this will be a stain on his reputation. Furthermore, you are only SOSO. You said that I relied on the power of the divine weapon. If you are capable, get your man to give you one. However, he cannot give it to me. You can only be jealous and watch as I destroy your worship. You can't do anything about it. Xiao Qian's final sentence was filled with mockery. However, every word she said was the truth. Tianyu Shi's breathing turned ragged. He felt incredibly frustrated. His chest heaved up and down, and he lost control of his emotions. You? Shui Lingling did not show mercy after gaining the upper hand. She snorted coldly and said, You? What you? Am I wrong? If you're capable, then call Di Wuk out now. If you're capable, get Di Wuk to give you a weapon on the divine weapon ranking. If not, then scram. Relying on numbers to bully us, an elder undergoing his tribulation. What kind of capability is that? Xiao Hoju and Feng Wuji blushed slightly at Xiao Qian's words, feeling incredibly embarrassed. However, the 12 injured keepers could not stand their divine daughter being bullied like that. They stepped forward and soared into the air. Don't be rude to the divine daughter. Xiao Chun smiled faintly. With me around, don't be rude to my senior sister. Stepping forward, Xiao Chun drew his saber from its scabbard. This was the first time he drew his saber on the island. The instant he drew his saber, he spread out his saber domain. In his sea of consciousness, 3 spots of dazzling saber energy, as bright as the sun, were instantly detonated by Xiao Chun. Whoosh! Immediately, the light on Xiao Chen's body became extremely intense, causing the surrounding 1 kilometer to lose color. When the light appeared once more, the already injured 12 watchers were sent flying, vomiting blood as they retreated one by one. Saber energy was one of Xiao Chen's 3 great trump cards. For the sake of instantly knocking back the 12 keepers and intimidating them, Xiao Chen had no choice but to use it in advance. The expressions of Tianyu Shi and the others changed. Suddenly, they felt that being so close to Xiao Chen was somewhat dangerous, so they all moved back. Xiao Chen sheathed his saber. Then, he looked at Tianyu Shi and said, Senior Lan possesses a strength that even sovereign martial emperors fear. He will not fall so quickly. Tianyu Shi, you no longer have a chance. Go back. Shifting his gaze, Xiao Chen looked at Xiao Hoju and said softly, Xiao Hoju, you were once aloof, known as an outstanding talent. Even if you stand on the deity race's side now, I ask you not to dirty the word outstanding talent and forget the glory of the past. Even if you think that Nguyen Muyun's death is related to me, I will accept it. If you have any problems, just come at me. Don't attack the people around me. As Xiao Hoju looked at the carefree Xiao Chun, who exuded the air of a king, he felt defeated for some reason. He said sullenly, Let's go. Divine Daughter, there is no need to use your trump card. The 3 holy masters thank you for your help this time. Feng Wuji and Xiao Hoju turned and left together. Before they left, they gave Xiao Chen a deep look. Tianyu, she stared at Shui Lingling and said, In the future, when the deity Dao Union sends its troops to the Haotian sect, let's see if you will behave like you did today. Today's matter would be unforgettable for Xiao Chun. She was the bona fide divine daughter. When had she ever been scolded by another woman? After the group of people went far away, Xiao Chun looked at Shui Lingling and smiled. First senior sister, I discovered that you were somewhat different today. What do you mean by, if you were jealous, get your man to give you a transcendent divine weapon? Shui Lingling's earlier aura vanished. She smiled embarrassedly and said, Sorry about that. I was careless and took advantage of you. Xiao Chan felt embarrassed in his heart. Indeed, first senior sister is first senior sister. He still remembered how she chased a certain someone for several days and nights in the savage battlefield. After that, he completely lost his temper. The intense fluctuations in the sky stopped, and the deity race Emperor Wu left. Lan Xiaofeng put away his dagger and landed beside Shao Chun. On the Emperor's road, before the halo of flowing water around Elder Qin shattered, he finally cleared the last step of the 1,000 steps. He cleared it. Shui Lingling exclaimed with joy. When Shao Chun saw this, he heaved a sigh of relief. It was as Lan Xiaofeng said. As long as he endured the external pressure, Elder Qin had a high chance of clearing his great tribulation of wind and fire. After all, Shao Qin's great tribulation of wind and fire was just the most ordinary one. Elder Qin's accumulations were not bad, either. Even so, by the time he reached the Emperor's door, Elder Qin was already so weak that he only had half a breath left. His aura wavered, looking like he would collapse at any moment. 1,000 steps. Each step was a hurdle, and each step was a tribulation. Along the way, Shao Qin's heart ached at several of the scenes he saw, feeling moved. However, now that the bitterness was over, Shao Chun got what he wanted, and his lifespan increased to 2,000 years. Whoosh! Whoosh! Just as Elder Qin's hand was about to touch the Emperor's door, flaming clouds suddenly filled the sky. Layers of blazing flames covered the sky and the sun. The unending flaming clouds were like waves undulating. It was like a sea of fire reflected in the sky. Suspicion appeared on Shao Chen's face. He felt that something was wrong. "Senior Lan, what is that?" Lan Xiaofeng's expression changed drastically in extreme shock. "That's impossible. This is a fire dragon tribulation. It is extremely rare. Normally, only outstanding talents or Golden Emperor's Road occasionally appear." Right after Lan Xiaofeng spoke, the flaming clouds quickly gathered together. Soon, the silhouette of a huge dragon appeared in the sky. It reared its head back and roared ferociously, causing the entire sky to tremble. This Shao Chun felt somewhat helpless. He could only rely on himself for his great tribulation of wind and fire. Others could not help him. Otherwise, he would suffer a backlash from the heavenly Tao and die. Such a result made the expression of Shui Lingling, who rushed over from afar, sink. She watched all this in disbelief. Far away, on the sea, Xiao Ju and the others, who had already traveled far, were stunned when they saw the fire dragon appear. After a while, Xiao Ju rejoiced. "It's a fire dragon tribulation. It looks like the heavens want to break the dragon's gate's luck." A fire dragon tribulation rarely appears on the Emperor's Road. Even when outstanding talents undergo their tribulations, it is very difficult to see one. To think that Elder Qin ran into one. Chapter 1323. Tianyu she analyzed calmly. It must be caused by the dragon's gate's luck being too strong. Elder Qin is already tied to the dragon's gate. The dragon's gate is like a huge true dragon. If Shao Chun is the dragon's head, then Elder Qin is the dragon's claw. Or perhaps it is the other parts. This is a tribulation for the dragon's gate. If it were another outstanding talent undergoing a tribulation, perhaps it would be a good thing. However, since it is Elder Qin's turn, he will die for sure. That was right. If an outstanding talent survived the fire dragon tribulation and advanced to martial emperor, their emperor's body would possess the energy of a fire dragon, and their strength would multiply. However, Elder Qin was not an outstanding talent at all. He was just an ordinary blue-robed emperor. This fire dragon tribulation was not something he could endure. On the small island, Shao Chun revealed an extremely dissatisfied expression. After working so hard for so long, in the end, he still could not give Elder Qin hope. Heartache, guilt, and various other emotions filled Lan Xiaofeng's heart, making him feel strangely angry. Lan Xiaofeng shook his head and sighed softly, all sorts of feelings welling up in him. At the end of the Emperor's Road, Elder Qin, who had thought that the bitterness was over, smiled bitterly and revealed an expression of despair. The fire dragon, formed by the cloud, sea instantly took form. It opened its huge maw and roared ferociously. Then, it dived down as if it wanted to swallow up Elder Qin, who was holding the Emperor's door. Freeze! Just at this critical moment, the three-life mirror in the immortal spirit ring shone its light on that incredibly huge fire dragon. Time seemed to have stopped. The fire dragon's head, which had been descending at lightning speed, became incomparably slow. In this strange atmosphere, Elder Cheen could not understand what was going on. However, after a while, he reacted and used the last bit of his strength to push the Emperor's door with much difficulty. The Emperor's road had drained Xiao Qin's energy long ago. He was mentally fatigued, and his entire body felt weak. Originally, he only needed to raise his hand to push the Emperor's door. Now, it was incredibly difficult to do. It was not much faster than the descending fire dragon head, a heart-wrenching sight. Amid this strange scene, Elder Cheen finally pushed open the Emperor's door just as the fire dragon head was about to swallow him up. Boom! Boundless multicolored light gushed out from the Emperor's door. The surging primordial energy formed a tricolored auspicious sign that covered the entire sea region, filling the sky. A golden light engulfed Elder Cheen, and his body dissolved in the golden light. The moment the Emperor's door opened, the terrifying fire dragon immediately vanished, turning into fiery red flowers that scattered in all directions. Seeing Elder Cheen's body dissolve in the golden light, Xiao Chun and the others heaved a sigh of relief. Elder Cheen's body was being reconstructed. He used the power of the heavenly Tao to forge the golden emperor body for Elder Cheen. In midair, the three-life mirror swayed and fell continuously. Xiao Chun strode forward and leaped into the air, grabbing hold of the swaying three lives mirror. In the mirror, Little Three smiled weakly and said, I finally let this old man become a martial emperor. Elder brother White Robes, stop frowning. I'm so tired. Little Three, I want to sleep. As Little Three spoke, her voice grew softer and softer. Finally, it vanished, and the mirror turned black. This startled Xiao Chun, and he paled. Little Three, wake up, wake up. Ao Jiao, who was in the immortal spirit ring, said, don't wake her up. Let her have a good sleep. This nagger really overestimated herself. To think that she changed the trajectory of time by herself. Xiao Chun asked in a fluster, Ao Jiao, what's going on? Ao Jiao explained, the three-life mirror is a space-time immortal equipment in the first place. It is used to assist immortals in executing space-time magic skills. After all, even immortals have difficulty grasping the time Tao. With the three-life mirror, one can achieve twice the result with half the effort when executing the time Tao. You know now, right? She is a support-type immortal equipment, but she used this identity to change the trajectory of time by herself. Xiao Chun now understood. Simply put, Little Three was offside. She forcefully used strength that exceeded her own and suffered a backlash. She will be fine, right? Ao Jiao sighed and said, she won't die, but she will suffer. If she messes around like this again, even a deity might not be able to save her. When Xiao Chun heard that, he relaxed slightly. Then, he carefully put away the three-life mirror, not knowing what to say. This Little Three nagged a lot. However, at the crucial moment, she could still be so understanding of the greater good. However, Xiao Chun still had some doubts. Making a move to stop the great tribulation of wind and fire would result in the punishment of the heavenly Tao. Both parties would suffer a tribulation. Why were Little Three and Elder Cheen fine? Xiao Chun, was that your secret treasure earlier that changed the trajectory of time? Lan Xiaofeng asked with a grave expression. The time Tao was something that even primes could not comprehend. Xiao Chun felt somewhat put on the spot, not knowing what to say. When Lan Xiaofeng saw the situation, he said, I understand. This matter is probably not easy to explain. Thank you, Senior, for understanding. Lan Xiaofeng smiled and said, what is there to understand? This old man was just curious and asked casually. Right now, I do not even understand the state of space. Being fortunate enough to see the state of time, it is hard for me to not lose my composure. Shui Lingling said, look, the reconstruction of Elder Cheen's golden body is complete. Amid the auspicious signs filling the sky, the golden light suddenly shrank and gathered into a clump of light, continuously combining. Between the heavens and the earth, countless spiritual chi from all directions converged towards the glowing figure. Instantly, the place where the golden light gathered became the center of the world, covering up all the other lights. Xiao Chun smiled faintly, feeling happy for Elder Qin. He also anticipated such a day for himself. Xiao Chun watched as the auspicious signs filled the sky, dancing in the air. Amid the golden light, Elder Qin reconstructed his golden body. Xiao Hoju, who was wildly rejoicing earlier, revealed a horrified expression. Even now, he could not understand this dramatic scene. The moment the fire dragon descended, the trajectory of time changed, forcibly stopped by the three-life mirror's item spirit. However, in reality, time did not change. As a result, Xiao Hoju and the others, who were 50 kilometers away, only saw a blurry scene. They only saw the fire dragon roaring as it arrived. Following that, the Emperor's door opened, and countless strands of primordial energy surged out. Then, the fire dragon scattered. Tian Yushi frowned and said, "This matter is somewhat strange. When we return, we have to report it to Emperor Forsaken." Feng Wuji also felt suspicious. He said, "A sure death situation was broken just like that. It is indeed strange. If Xiao Chun could use the same method to deal with his great tribulation of wind and fire, then we might only be able to watch as Xiao Chun advance to martial emperor." Xiao Hoju shook his head and said, "That's impossible. There is absolutely no chance of using such an incredible heaven-defying method a second time. If Xiao Chun dared to do that, his great tribulation of wind and fire would definitely change, becoming even more horrifying." In reality, it was as Feng Wuji said. What he said was not wrong. However, even if it could be used, it could not be used anymore. If the three-life mirror forcefully reversed time, it would not be able to endure it and collapse on its own. The losses outweighed the gains. In the future, if Xiao Chun comprehended the time Dao on his own, with the three-life mirror's assistance, he would be like a tiger with wings, like a god helping him. Whoosh! Sonic booms resounded, and the Western Sea Dragon King Ao Lang rushed over. With an angry expression, he said, "Tian Yushi, didn't you say that you would definitely stop Elder Qin from undergoing his tribulation? Why did you not do it? How dare you speak to the Divine Daughter like that?" The deity race martial emperor said with a cold expression as he stepped forward. His emperor's might containing a divine nature spread out, putting heavy pressure on Ao Lang. Ao Lang could not help feeling startled. This deity race martial emperor before him probably relied on himself to climb to martial emperor and not the power of faith. There were two types of Emperor Wu in the deity race. One relied on the power of faith to advance to martial emperor, with their own strength as a supplement. This type was the most numerous. The deity race claimed to have 3,000 deities. 80 to 90% of them were this type. The other type was scarier. They relied on their own strength to advance to martial emperor, with the power of faith as a supplement. They were relatively few in number. However, they were the mainstays of the deity race and were extremely strong. Sorry, I was somewhat rude. Divine Daughter, please forgive me. Ao Lang felt dissatisfied, but he still lowered his head and apologized. This woman before him could be considered the most respected woman in the entire Kunlun realm. Even if she was not as strong as him, he could not offend her casually. Tianyu, she was in a bad mood because of Shui Lingling. Now that he was angry, he did not give Ao Lang any face. He snorted coldly and said, "Do I need to account to you? What qualifications do you have to question me?" Ao Lang, from the start to the end, I never agreed to stop Elder Qin from undergoing his tribulation. When Xiao Hoju saw the situation, he tried to smooth things over. He said, "Senior Ao, this is a long story. I will explain it to you later. I was the one who told the Divine Daughter to give up. She has a divine talisman that Emperor Forsaken refined, which can instantly kill a minor heavenly Emperor Wu, but she did not use it." When Ao Lang saw the situation, he asked in shock why. Feng Wuji smiled and said, "Senior Ao, it is probably not limited to how strong Xiao Chen is now. If we really used it, none of us would be able to leave. Some of us would definitely fall here. The deity race, greater heavenly martial emperor, said coldly, "Oh, Lang, I guessed right. You should have some trump cards. If you rely on your trump cards, it is impossible to wash away the humiliation of that day. Your only choice is to submit to my deity Dao Union. Don't have any other thoughts." Ao Lang nodded and said, "Yes, yes, yes." Before a huge faction like the deity Dao Union, Ao Lang was like an ant. Even if he was not satisfied, he could only pretend to be a grandson for now. Tian Yu, she continued, "Half a month from now, a deity palace will be established in the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace. At that time, we will erect a deity statue for Senior Ao. Senior Ao's strength will definitely soar again." The moment Xiao Chun said that, Ao Lang immediately rejoiced in his heart. The deity race's power of faith was a famous weapon in the Kunlun realm. If Ao Lang could construct a deity statue for Ao Lang, he would not have to risk his life to undergo his tribulation and would be able to raise his strength by 20%. However, Ao Lang was astute. After thinking about it, he concluded that there would not be such a good deal. Tian Yu, she would definitely make a request. "Indeed, Tian Yu," she said. "However, before that, I hope Senior Ao can lead the way and convince the other 3 Dragon Kings to join my deity Dao Union." Ao Lang quickly weighed the pros and cons in his heart. Then, he smiled and said, "That's not a problem. With me asking, the other 3 elder brothers will definitely not reject." When Tian Yu Shi and the other 2 heard that, they revealed smiles on their faces. Although they did not succeed in stopping Elder Qin from advancing to Martial Emperor and disrupting the Dragon's Gate's luck in the heavenly starry ocean, they managed to open a path for the divine dragon palaces of the 4 seas. However, this opened up the divine dragon palaces of the 4 seas, allowing the deity Dao Union to successfully expand its influence into the heavenly starry ocean. Chapter 1324. However, those immortal holy lands would be harder to deal with. Tian Yu, she thought to himself, of these immortal holy lands, the Lunar Palace holds the highest prestige. To a large extent, they will be influenced by the Lunar Palace. Perhaps I should make some time to meet that famous holy daughter of the heavenly starry ocean, Yu Bingyan. As long as I can convince her, the other immortal holy lands will give in easily. When the deity Dao Union takes shape, overwhelming luck will descend. In terms of luck, the divine Sun Di Wuk would be qualified to rival Xiao Chun. On the small island, Elder Qin, who had finished reconstructing his golden body, drifted down, radiating light from his entire body. His initial air of being past his prime was swept away. Instead, he became full of vigor, like he had obtained new life. "Many thanks, many thanks, many thanks." When Elder Qin landed, he first thanked Lan Xiaofeng and Xue Lingling. Then he faced Xiao Chun and bowed 3 times. "This Qin really does not know how to thank you. Little friend Xiao Chun, you have done too much for me." Xiao Chun smiled and said, "Old Qin, there is no need to be so polite. Now, you are a member of the Dragon's Gate. Furthermore, I, Xiao Chun, owe you a great debt of gratitude in the past. This is what I should do. Oh, by the way, what happened at the very last moment? I accidentally pushed open the Emperor's door." Elder Qin asked, feeling somewhat confused. Lan Xiaofeng smiled mysteriously and did not explain. "Old Qin, feel for yourself and see if there is fire dragon energy in your body." Elder Qin closed his eyes and tried to sense it. When he opened his eyes again, there was a fire dragon swimming in each of his eyes. The fire dragons coiled in his eyes and turned into a blazing flame. Elder Qin shouted and raised his hand, throwing a palm strike at the distant sea. Flaming clouds immediately filled that part of the sky, forming a fire dragon radiating an overwhelming heaven dragon might as it swooped down. Z! Z! As the mist surged, a huge pit appeared in the vast sea. After a while, it formed a whirlpool and kicked up a huge wave. "This," Elder Qin said with some incredulity as he entered daze. Lan Xiaofeng laughed loudly and said, "If one survives a great calamity, there will definitely be consequences. Elder Qin, you were supposed to be an ordinary Emperor Wu, but after going through the Fire Dragon tribulation, you have the power of the Fire Dragon. In just a month, I'm afraid you will be comparable to an ordinary Third Heaven Emperor Wu. Congratulations, Xiao Chun and Shui Lingling said with a smile. Elder Qin was overjoyed, and his face was full of smiles. Anyone who received such a pleasant surprise would find it hard to restrain themselves. Lan Xiaofeng sighed. Even old Qin has such strength when undergoing his tribulation. In the future, when those juniors of the Dragon's Gate succeed in their tribulation, the glory of the Dragon's Gate will be just around the corner. Congratulations, Brother Qin, on becoming a martial emperor. In the sky, many figures floated over. They were the other Emperor Wu who had been driven away by Xiao Chun. They congratulated him. At this time, Xiao Chun naturally wouldn't chase them away. You're too polite, too polite. Elder Qin guffawed and performed cup fist salutes in return. His face filled with smiles, looking very pleased. Now that he had ascended to the heavens in one step, he was also an Emperor Wu with a lifespan of 2,000 years and the power of the Fire Dragon. How could he not be happy? More people gathered. Some of the martial sages in Heaven Dragon City also rushed over. After they offered their congratulations, they fought to be the first to snatch the auspicious signs in the sky. The extraordinarily bustling scene added a joyous atmosphere to Elder Qin's ascension to Martial Emperor. This Elder Qin is really lucky. Although there are many people who advance to Martial Emperor now, most of them die with hatred in their hearts. It was not easy. Earlier, I saw the deity race's warship flying over. Unexpectedly, the Blue Dragon King, Xiao Chun, managed to withstand the pressure, not letting the other party succeed. The Blue Dragon King is truly incredible. If I had such a sect master able to protect me, I might have been able to advance to Martial Emperor back then. He is not just incredible. Even a Holy Lord could not be such a righteous person. All sorts of discussions rang out. Xiao Chun revealed a smile on his delicate face. Then, he quietly withdrew to an inconspicuous corner. He did not try to steal Elder Qin's limelight. Right now, this was the proudest moment of Elder Qin's life, allowing him to receive the many envious or jealous gazes. One should enjoy life to the fullest. There was no need to hold back, just laugh. On a protruding hill on the small island, Xiao Chun smiled as he watched Elder Qin greet the many people who came to congratulate him. Figures flickered in the sky. The cultivators who managed to snatch the auspicious signs rejoiced. Auspicious signs not only represented a good omen, but could also directly increase a cultivator's cultivation. Once one advanced to Martial Emperor, it would be very lively. Xiao Chun took out the 1,000-year flame that Mo Chun brewed. Then, he swirled the purple crystal cup and took a sip, letting the fiery wine flow freely in his chest. The bustling scene before him made it hard for Xiao Chun not to think of himself. In the future, could he be as lucky as Elder Qin, successfully walking the Emperor's road to completion? If Xiao Chun ran into a similar Fire Dragon tribulation, while Elder Qin could get Little 3 to help, he definitely could not. He could only face it head-on. By watching Elder Qin undergo his tribulation, Xiao Chun gained a lot from his great tribulation of wind and fire. Naturally, the most direct gain was a direct understanding of the great tribulation of wind and fire. He knew what the Emperor's road, the Emperor's door, and the great tribulation of wind and fire were like. Although Elder Qin's great tribulation of wind and fire could not compare to Xiao Chen's, it could not be avoided as a reference. Haha, Elder Qin succeeded in his tribulation. Why are you drinking alone instead? At some point, Mo Chun had arrived. She gently drifted over and sat down beside Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun took out a wine cup and offered it to Mo Chun. He smiled and said, "It is true that I am drinking, but it is not boring. Don't you feel that drinking the 1,000-year flame at this moment is especially good?" Mo Chun looked at the extraordinarily bustling scene in front. After a while, she smiled and said, "Indeed, the state of the 1,000-year flame lies in the inextinguishable hot-bloodedness. The fire in the chest will not extinguish for 1,000 years. It is a kind of pursuit a kind of perseverance, just like a cultivator's emperor's road. Xiao Chun smiled faintly and said, "Indeed, the person who brews wine knows more than I do. Although I know these principles, I do not know how to express them." After chatting for a while, Mo Chun said, "Let's not talk about this for now. I came to give you something. You will definitely like it." Mo Chun knew that Xiao Chun was not as happy as he appeared to be right now. He was happy that Elder Qin advanced to martial emperor, but it inevitably stirred up some worry in his heart. Mo Chun intended to use another topic to divert Xiao Chun's attention. However, how could Xiao Chun not understand what she was doing? He smiled, appearing very interested as he asked, "What is it?" "This." Mo Chun took out an ancient Buddhist lamp. The shape of the lamp looked like a lotus flower, simple and unadorned. It contained a lingering Zen intent, looking very tasteful. Xiao Chun looked at it for a while. Suddenly, his eyes lit up as he recalled something. "This is a Buddhist lamp that can nurture a flame?" Under the veil, Mo Chun smiled faintly and nodded gently. "You made it. Hee. You think too highly of me. How could I make it for you so quickly? Perhaps you were lucky. I got people to keep an eye out at the Blue Dragon auction house. Who knew I really found it?" Mo Chun smiled happily. Then, she continued, "After the lamp oil is refined, you can nurture the heavenly snow divine flame. However, the Buddhist lamp's quality is not high enough, so it can only nurture the flame to rank 3. As Xiao Chun held the Buddhist lamp, he revealed joy on his face. Right now, the heavenly snow divine flame was too weak. As a primal chaos-level flame, it was somewhat unpresentable. However, once its quality increased, it would be completely different. Rank 3 was already sufficient. Mo Chun, you are very considerate. Thank you." Mo Chun giggled and said, "Don't be happy too early. The 10,000-year-old frost water used to refine the lamp oil is not easy to find." Xiao Chun thought for a while. Then, he took out a portion of the icy dew that he collected in the Sky Dome Immortal realm. Then he asked, "Will this do?" "This is derived from the heavenly snow, divine flame, slowly dissipating." Mo Chun took it and examined it. Then, she said excitedly, "This is the top-quality 10,000-year-old frost water. It will do. Give me 3 days, and I will be able to help you refine the lamp oil for the Buddhist lamp." "No, we cannot waste time. I'll go and prepare it now." Mo Chun held the jade bottle containing the icy dew and rushed off, not even bothering to greet Xiao Chun. As Xiao Chun watched Mo Chun leave, he smiled faintly. Mo Chun was even more nervous than he was. The commotion slowly died down. Lan Xiaofeng and Elder Qin returned to the city to host a banquet to entertain the other cultivators. Due to some reasons, Xiao Chun rejected the invitation and did not go with them. After everyone left, the average-sized island immediately turned quiet. Xiao Chun looked up and discovered that his first senior sister had not gone over. The profound sunbird, which had already shrunk, perched on her shoulder as she slowly walked over to him. "What's wrong? You're not going as well?" Xiao Chun asked. Shui Lingling shook her head and smiled. "I'm going. Why wouldn't I go? I'm not like you who like peace and quiet. However, before I go, I have something to ask of you. Master instructed me to do." When Xiao Chun heard that, he put away his wine cup, feeling startled. As a prime, Big Brother Ing rarely asked for help. However, now he got Shui Lingling to ask him for help. Perhaps some things were more serious than Xiao Chun imagined. "What is it? Just say it. I will do my best to do what I can," Xiao Chun said seriously. The Haotian Prime was the first major character to step forward to support him. No matter how big the help was, Xiao Chun had to help. Shui Lingling organized her words before saying, "Originally, the Haotian sect and the 3 holy masters were in a stalemate. However, the 3 holy masters could no longer wait. Recently, they joined the deity Dao Union that Emperor Forsaken heads. The Haotian sect's situation immediately turned dangerous." Deity Dao Union? Xiao Chun had never heard of this organization before. He had only heard a little about it from Tian Yushi today, but he did not understand much about it. After Shui Lingling explained it to him, Xiao Chun's expression changed. The might of this deity Dao Union was truly unimaginable. Master wants you to find some reinforcements in the oceanic world. If the deity Tao Union attacks the Haotian sect in the future, you can send reinforcements, Shui Lingling said as succinctly as she could. Xiao Chen nodded and said, I will not shirk from this. I will depart in 3 days. However, I do not know how many people I can get to agree to help. I will do my best. The Haotian sect and Xiao Chun were bound together. If the 3 holy masters took full control of Bushan Palace, Xiao Chun would definitely not be able to survive. Even if the Haotian sect did not make this request, now that Xiao Chun knew about it, he would have to do something. He could not just sit and wait for death. Shui Lingling smiled and said, Don't worry. Master said that as long as you are willing to make a personal appearance, you will definitely gain something. A great calamity is approaching. Only you have hope. Others can see this hope as well.